Chapter 2254. Lin Tian was moved when he heard the old Taoist priest's words and saw the eternal yen advancing heaven elixir in the old Taoist priest's hand. This bowed and could temporarily raise his cultivation level to infinitely close to the level of a supreme master in the universe. At the same time, the great beings with 72 wings from the Heaven Protector tribe were moved as well. They all knew about the bowed en, so they immediately sped up and charged toward Lin Tian. Someone attacked from afar, sweeping out a large area of holy light to suppress Lin Tian and the eternal yen advancing heaven elixir in the old Taoist priest's hand. Violent saint energy immediately surged forth like a raging wave. Lin Tian's body turned cold immediately. Without hesitation, he grabbed the eternal yen advancing heaven elixir in the old Taoist priest's hand and swallowed it. It instantly melted in his stomach. His body trembled slightly. The eternal yen advancing heaven elixir melted very quickly, and its medicinal effect was instantly unleashed. Boom! A monstrous hurricane immediately swept out with him as the center. His essence, energy, and spirit soared to an extremely high level in the blink of an eye. Together with the rolling fate energy intertwined with the eye of destiny, he forcefully pushed the old Taoist priest and the others aside. At the same time, soft sounds were heard. The holy light from the great beings with 72 wings from the Heaven Protector tribe was all shattered by this aura. The dozens of people couldn't help but stop in their tracks. Lin Tian's aura was completely different from before. In the distance, the little Tai Chu and the white tiger's expressions changed. Feng Xingtianzuan and Ao Jiantianzuan were also moved by Lin Tian. Even the martial ancestor, the old gangster, and the primitive emperor had a flash of light in their eyes. In the distance, on the remnant star, the divine key and the man in green were naturally shocked. The aura that Lin Tian exuded now and the power of fate energy that was mixed with his body was too shocking. It was far from what it was before. Old man Tai, you've helped us a lot this time. This thing is useless to you and us, but it will allow him to get closer to our level. Coupled with the Eye of Destiny, his current fighting power will far exceed ours. The old gangster looked at Lin Tian at this moment. His eyes shone brightly as he spoke to Taoist Tai. Obviously, they knew each other. I got it by chance. I'm useless to him, but his wealth is good fortune. The Eye of Destiny controls the Tao of Providence. This is caused by his providence, the old Taoist priest said. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Destiny energy swirled around Lin Tian's body. At this moment, as he swallowed the eternal yen advancing heaven elixir, his cultivation level was infinitely close to the level of a supreme master of the universe. The power of destiny energy that his Eye of Destiny created was even more astonishing. Standing in this illusory flame starry sea, fate filled the sky. The black hair in front of his forehead danced as he put away the perfect world. Thanks, old man. He spoke with his back facing the old Taoist. 9 black moons were intertwined in each of his eyes. They were connected by special Tao patterns, and they were vast and majestic. The 17 or 72-winged venerables of the Heaven Protectors looked at Lin Tian. Their eyes were filled with shock and coldness. The brown-haired elder said, His cultivation level is infinitely close to ours, but it's only close. Even with the Eye of Destiny, it's difficult. Swoosh! There was an air-piercing sound. Lin Tian moved. He appeared in front of the elder in an instant, and punched him. As he punched, the surrounding destiny energy moved along with him. It gathered at the tip of his fist, suppressing and destroying everything. Then, there was a loud bang. The brown-haired elder was sent flying. After flying for tens of thousands of feet, he crashed into a star in the illusory flamed starry sea. Along with the star, he exploded. Blood and star fragments splattered everywhere. At the same time, the destiny energy outside his body vibrated. Like water ripples, it spread 360 degrees without any blind spots. Bam! 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 There was a series of groans. The other 49 powerhouses with 72 wings were all sent flying. All of them spurted out blood. Such a scene shocked the little Tai Chu, White Tiger, Feng Xingtianzuan, and Ao Jiantianzuan. In the blink of an eye, one of the 72 winged experts was smashed into pieces, while the other 49 were sent flying while coughing up blood. What kind of combat power was that? No wonder it's said to be one of the ultimate eye techniques that can change the world. His cultivation is only very close to our level, but he's able to unleash such power with his Eye of Destiny as his foundation. No wonder he's able to change the world. The Yuan Emperor's eyes were filled with brilliance. Those old guys are going to be in trouble. They set up such a huge trap, and they're all going to fall into it. The old hoodlum sneered. The martial ancestor's eyes were also filled with brilliance. He was shocked by Lin Tian's combat power, but he was relatively calm. He said in a deep voice, "We can't be careless. That clan has a terrifying foundation. You all know that the soul-devouring painting is very powerful." As he said that, he continued, "Moreover, they have 72 winged powerhouses waiting here. It's obvious that they value the layout of this place very much. Perhaps they have more terrifying means hidden. We can't be careless." The old hoodlum frowned slightly. He then nodded and said, "That's right. We have to be careful." At this moment, they didn't make a move because Lin Tian's combat power was far beyond theirs. At this moment, there was no need for them to make a move. They looked ahead and guarded their surroundings. Lin Tian's entire body was intertwined with the power of destiny. There were 9 black moons in each of his eyes. After sending dozens of 72 winged powerhouses flying, he didn't pursue them. He stepped forward and instantly appeared on the huge remnant star where the divine key and the azure-robed man were trapped. "Lin Tian, you..." The divine key opened his mouth but couldn't finish his sentence. At this moment, he really didn't know what to say. The azure-robed man also didn't know what to say. They had been saved by Lin Tian before. This time, Lin Tian knew that this place was extremely dangerous, but he still came for them without hesitation. This made them feel very guilty. They were clearly seniors. They should be protecting Lin Tian. However, more often than not, it was Lin Tian who was running around and fighting for them. "I definitely won't let anything happen to you. Definitely." Lin Tian now swung the reincarnation fist at the divine pattern array that trapped the two of them. They were Wu Yi's parents. How could he let anything happen to them? With a bang, his fist landed outside the divine pattern array that trapped the two of them. Immediately, rainbow lights burst out. However, the divine pattern array was not damaged at all. This made Lin Tiandao's expression change. With the Hing Yen Heaven Advancement pill, he was now much stronger than the old hooligan and the others. However, he couldn't destroy this array with one punch. He paused for a moment. His Eye of Destiny trembled slightly. He mobilized the power of destiny and pressed it against the divine pattern array that trapped the two of them. This caused the divine pattern array to start shaking violently. However, it still didn't break. "We spent a few months setting up this array with all our strength. How can you break it in a day?" A cold voice sounded. The 49 72 winged powerhouses who had been sent flying stabilized themselves. Someone stared at Lin Tian and spoke. At the same time, the immortal soul of the brown-haired elder who had his physical body destroyed reformed. He rushed back from afar. The aura he exuded was even stronger and colder. And Chapter 2255. After the brown-haired elder charged towards Lin Tian, the other 49 people followed suit and unleashed their power of order. They knew how powerful Lin Tian was now. Although it was only temporary, they couldn't afford to be careless. "After I kill all of you, I have the power to break it open." Lin Tian's voice was cold as he faced the dozens of people charging towards him. As soon as he finished speaking, the power of destiny moved with his gaze, directly turning into a long river of destiny that pressed down on the ground. Chi! 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 Soft sounds rang out as the power of order from the dozens of people collided with the river of fate. In an instant, the power of order was annihilated by the river of fate. Lin Tian stepped out of the broken star and unleashed the reincarnation fist with his fate. As he punched out, the sky was filled with afterimages. Bang! 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 Muffled groans rang out as the 50-72 winged powerhouses were all sent flying once again. He could break the formation that trapped Divine Key and the man in green with his power of fate. However, it would take a lot of time and he couldn't be disturbed. Right now, the dozens of people obviously couldn't just watch him break the formation with his fate. Hence, if he wanted to save Divine Key and the man in green, he had to kill all 50-72 winged powerhouses in front of him first. The 50-72 winged powerhouses were sent flying, but they quickly stabilized themselves. There was a coldness in their eyes as they urged the power of order to become even stronger. Divine chains of order were formed, and with a clattering sound, they all shot towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian stepped forward, and his eye of destiny trembled slightly. The power of providence immediately gathered around the 50 people, forming vortexes of providence one after another. They instantly shattered the divine chains that the dozens of people had formed, and the power of providence surged. Bang! 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 Once again, the 50 people were sent flying and coughing up blood. He's completely suppressed those 50 people. In the distance, the white tiger's face was filled with shock. The 50-72 winged powerhouses of the Heaven Protectors, the top existences of this clan, were completely suppressed by Lin Tian. They were sent flying time and time again by Lin Tian. The legendary eye technique is no joke. It is a power that far surpasses the power of order. The old hooligan looked at Lin Tian in front of him and said, "Speaking of which, when the perfect world evolved, he actually gained control of the Eye of Destiny." No, it has nothing to do with that," little Taichu said. The old hooligan was slightly taken aback. "Nothing? Didn't he learn the Eye of Destiny because of the perfect world?" Little Taichu shook its little head. "No, before the perfect world evolved, it was already under control. Back then, before he reached the God Emperor realm, he already opened this pair of eyes," the white tiger said. As soon as these words came out, the old hooligan couldn't help but feel his heart palpitate, and he couldn't help but gasp. When he saw Lin Tian's Eye of Destiny and thought about how Lin Tian had developed the perfect world, he had thought that Lin Tian had gained control of the Eye of Destiny because the perfect world had been developed. However, this had nothing to do with the perfect world. The martial ancestor, the old Taoist priest, and the primitive emperor were all shocked. If it wasn't because the perfect world had evolved to the perfect world and gained control of the Eye of Destiny before reaching the God Emperor realm, this was simply too shocking. How did he do it? The old Taoist priest's eyes widened. Boom! In front of them, there was a turbulence of saint energy and order. The 50-72 winged powerhouses stabilized themselves, all of them looking cold. They looked at Lin Tian, and the aura outside their bodies became even more shocking. The Eye of Destiny is indeed extraordinary. Even with the support of a cultivation level close to ours, he can still have such power. Very good, one of them said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, this person immediately formed a seal, and the other 49 people also acted together and formed the same seal. Suddenly, the illusory flame starry sea shook violently. From afar, a blood-red divine picture flew over, surrounded by endless murderous aura. There were countless resentful spirits flying around, and each resentful spirit was scarier than the average master heaven-reaching expert. The complete spirit-devouring picture. Suppress. The 50-72 winged powerhouses acted together, activating the complete spirit-devouring picture, and pressuring Lin Tian mightily. The violent murderous aura swept in all directions, and the resentful spirits' mournful cries were ear-piercing. Everywhere they passed, the void was annihilated. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. With a slight thought, the seven-colored divine sword appeared in front of him. He held the sword hilt and directly slashed with it. With a clang, the rainbow-colored sword aura flew over at an extremely fast speed. It swept up the densely packed resentful spirits and collided with the spirit-devouring diagram in the blink of an eye. The spirit-devouring diagram shook violently from the impact, and cracks appeared on its surface. Clang! The sword rang again, and he swung it again. The seven-colored divine sword filled the sky, and every ray of sword light was intertwined with an extremely terrifying murderous aura. In the blink of an eye, they turned into a rain of rainbows, and instantly arrived in front of the spirit-devouring picture formed by the 50 people. Crack, crack, crack. Crisp sounds rang out, and in the blink of an eye, the complete spirit-devouring picture was punctured with holes. After that, the 7-colored divine sword did not immediately shatter. Its momentum did not decrease, and it enveloped the 50 72-winged powerhouses together. Poof! 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 Blood splattered, and the 50 72-winged powerhouses were all penetrated, and they were all sent flying by the power of the sword. This sword. The martial ancestor frowned. Who made it? It's terrifying, the Yuan Emperor said in a deep voice. The old hooligan and the old Taoist nodded silently. With enough cultivation to support it, the 7-colored divine sword's power was too terrifying. It was as if it could easily destroy everything. Feng Tianzuan and Ao Tianzuan looked at the 7-colored divine sword. At this time, a faint light appeared in their eyes. Speaking of which, after reincarnating before the memories of the previous life were recovered, we seemed to have seen this sword before. It seemed like we tried to suppress it, but in the end, we did not get the result. Feng Tianzuan said. Ao Tianzuan nodded. There is such a thing. He paused and said. Vaguely, it seems that after that, our souls were affected, and the memories of the previous life began to surge out bit by bit. Clang! In front of them, the sound of the sword rang again, and the entire illusory flame starry sea trembled. Lin Tian waved the 7-colored divine sword and used the reincarnation sword technique. Together with the Eye of Destiny, strands of the power of providence intertwined on the 7-colored divine sword, and the power of the reincarnation sword became even more terrifying. The 50 72-winged experts had just stabilized their bodies, and before they had time to repair their penetrated bodies, they were struck by such an attack. Once again, they were wounded, and all of them were smashed into pieces. Lin Tian stepped forward, not giving these people any chance to breathe. Surrounded by the power of providence, he held the 7-colored divine sword and rushed toward the 50 people, bombarding their souls that had not yet decayed. Enough! Chapter 2256. The 9-layered spirit-devouring painting was displayed horizontally, and the murderous aura swept across the space. With a rumble, one star after another in the illusory flame-starry sea was shattered by the murderous aura. In the distance, the white tiger and little Taichu's expressions changed. Feng Tianzuan and Ao Tianzuan were moved. Even the super-experts such as Old Hooligan and Martial Ancestor could not help but narrow their eyes at this time. When the 9-layered spirit-devouring painting merged into one, the power intertwined at this time was too shocking. In this place, the entire illusory flame-starry sea was shrouded in the murderous aura. 9 layers superimposed, the power is far more than just a 9-fold increase. The 50 72-winged experts healed their injured bodies. One of them spoke, his eyes deep and indifferent, his voice cold. Lin Tian was pushed back dozens of steps. The black hair in front of his forehead danced. In his eyes, 9 black moons intertwined, mysterious and strange. So what? He raised his hand and directly slashed out. The 7-colored sword aura shook off the murderous aura around him. In the next moment, he activated the reincarnation forging mind technique. His battle strength was instantly multiplied by 20, and his essence, chi, and spirit soared. Boom! The boundless sword aura rolled here, and the surging luck was vast and mighty, suppressing the 9-layered spirit-devouring painting. Suddenly, the 50 72-winged experts were moved at the same time. You! Clang! The ear-piercing sword sound was vast and mighty. Lin Tian waved the rainbow divine sword in his hand, activating the reincarnation sword technique. Then, he superimposed the power of luck on the sword light, directly creating a sword blade storm. The sword blade storm swept across, cutting through the void, and in the blink of an eye, it was close to the 50 72-winged experts. The 50 72-winged experts activated the 9-layered spirit-devouring painting together, and the murderous aura soared. Dense resentful spirits surged out of the 9-layered spirit-devouring painting and faced the sword blade storm. Sizzling sounds were immediately heard. A moment later, with a crack appeared on the 9-layered spirit-devouring painting, and the sword blade storm exploded. It directly shook the 9-layered spirit-devouring painting and forced the 50 people to retreat. "This kid!" Old Hooligan stared. Beside him, martial ancestor, primitive emperor, and a few others were also shocked. Above the remnant star, the Shinki and the azure-robed man revealed shocked expressions. Just now, when the 9-stage spirit-devouring diagrams appeared, they were originally filled with worry because the aura of the 9-stage spirit-devouring diagrams was indeed very frightening. However, they did not expect that Lin Tian's aura would suddenly skyrocket and directly suppress the 9-stage spirit-devouring diagrams. With a single slash of his sword, he shattered the 9-stage spirit-devouring diagrams and injured the 50 people once again. "It's the reincarnation forging spirit art. It can increase one's battle prowess by 20 times. This is the time when he is at his strongest after taking the Eternal Flame Heaven Ascension pill." The White Tiger was a little excited. He knew that Lin Tian had activated the reincarnation forging spirit art and increased his combat strength by 20 times. Clang! The sword chime was heard again, and it was very ear-piercing. After using the reincarnation forging spirit art to increase his combat strength by 20 times, he shattered the 9-layered spirit-devouring diagrams and injured the 50-72 winged experts. Lin Tian moved again, and did not give the 50 people a chance to catch their breath. He activated the reincarnation sword skill with the rainbow divine sword again, and interweaved the reincarnation killing sword. It almost turned the place into a world of sword radiance, and attacked the 50 people at the same time. At the same time, his mind moved slightly, and the Eye of Destiny shook slightly. Mouthful after mouthful of chi vortexes appeared from different positions around the 50-72 winged experts, and swallowed the 50 people together with the reincarnation sword radiance. Such an attack was a little terrifying. Even though the 50 people were all 72 winged experts, and were the top existences in the Heaven Protector tribe, they could not withstand such an attack. One by one, they were injured and half of their bodies were crushed. "Damn it!" The 50 people's voices were cold as they quickly recovered their bodies. At the same time, they activated the 9-layered spirit-devouring diagrams with their minds to protect themselves. Lin Tian's Eye of Destiny shook slightly, and the power of chi vortexes surged. More power of chi vortexes appeared in all directions and turned from formless to tangible. It flooded the 50 people again and covered the 9-layered spirit-devouring diagrams. The majestic chi vortexes was indestructible, and nothing could not destroy it. It crushed the 9-layered spirit-devouring diagrams until cracks appeared one after another. Then, the chi vortexes surged into the 9-layered spirit-devouring diagrams. The vengeful spirits inside could not withstand such a majestic chi vortexes at all. More than half of them were annihilated. In an instant, the murderous aura from the 9-layered spirit-devouring diagrams was weakened by more than half. It could not stop trembling violently. Clang! Lin Tian raised his hand and slashed out a 100-foot-long sword aura with the rainbow divine sword. Together with the boundless chi vortexes, it pressed down again. This time, there was a loud bang. The 9-layered spirit-devouring diagrams were cut in half and shattered into pieces. At this moment, Lin Tian moved and appeared among the 50 people in a flash. Chi vortexes surrounded him and spread out with his mind. Bang! 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 The 50 people were sent flying while coughing up blood. Buzz! His Eye of Destiny trembled slightly. He looked at the brown-haired elder among the 50 people, and a vast river of providence appeared. It came crashing down from the heavens, drowning this powerful being with 72 wings. Poof! Blood splashed out, accompanied by a muffled groan that could not be concealed. The brown-haired old man was shattered once again, leaving only his spirit intact. However, his spirit body was also covered in cracks at this moment. Clearly, he had suffered extremely serious injuries. Lin Tian's eyes shook. Chi vortexes surged everywhere he looked and pressed down on the elder's spiritual body. The dense chi vortexes surrounded him and completely sealed off the surrounding space. The aura was extremely terrifying. The brown-haired elder's spiritual body couldn't help but tremble. He couldn't help but shout to the other 49 people. Help! The other 49 people had already moved. Their divine chains of order clanged as they attacked Lin Tian together. They stopped Lin Tian from attacking the brown-haired elder's spiritual body with the power of chi vortexes. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He swung his sword and slashed out a reincarnation sword aura, forcing all 49 people back. At this moment, as he stared at the brown-haired elder, the surging power of chi vortexes drowned the elder's spiritual body. In an instant, there was another groan. This time, it was clearly more painful than before. The brown-haired elder was heavily injured again after being drowned by the chi vortexes. More cracks appeared on his spiritual body. It seemed like it would completely collapse in the next moment. This kid's combat power is simply... The old gangster's heart palpitated. He was facing 72 winged elites of the Heaven Protector clan alone, and had the absolute upper hand. He's even stronger than the first Heavenly Lady when she was at her peak. And now, the cultivation base he has temporarily raised is only close to ours. His cultivation is only close to ours, but he already has such combat strength. In the future, when he truly reaches our level, how strong will his combat strength be? The primitive emperor was also shocked. Boom! The space rumbled as Saint Power surged. On the battlefield, the brown-haired elder tried his best to break free from the chi vortexes. His eyes were filled with anger. Activate the formation! The 72-winged elite roared as he quickly reformed his body. Chapter 2257. As soon as he finished speaking, the brown-haired elder immediately formed a seal. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, "You're just an ant. You're too arrogant." He was a peak existence of the Heaven Protector clan, but now, he was being heavily injured by a junior like Lin Tian again and again. At this moment, he was already on the verge of death. This made him feel incomparably humiliated and infuriated. "I didn't expect him to push us to this extent." The other 49 people also formed a seal. One of them said coldly. They had set up this trap to lure Lin Tian here. They were aware of Lin Tian's strength and various means. In the beginning, they did not think that Lin Tian would be a threat to them. They had set up all kinds of means to deal with Martial Ancestor and the others so that they would not have a chance to escape. They wanted to kill Martial Ancestor and the others. However, they did not expect that Lin Tian, whom they thought was not a threat, would be able to severely injure them again and again. They had been forced to use the 9 stacks of spirit-devouring painting. Now, they had to use a stronger trump card. Rumble! The space vibrated. Divine runes and formation seals were formed in every corner of the illusory flame starry sea. In the blink of an eye, a special formation appeared. All kinds of killing lights and Tao radiances appeared in the starry sea. Moreover, this was not the end. With this great formation as the core, a total of 49 great stars exploded, and within each great star was a complete spirit-devouring diagram. As soon as they surged out, they appeared together with boundless formation seals, and their baleful aura and killing might were berserk. The White Tiger, Little Taichu, and the others were shocked by this scene. Even the powerful Martial Ancestor was no exception. This group of old farts. When the 50 of them came out together, they actually prepared so many terrifying trump cards. The old gangster gritted his teeth. The complete spirit-devouring diagram was very frightening. Just one of it was already very frightening. But now, there were dozens of such great weapons set up in this place. Moreover, the great matrix was also very frightening. Its killing power was very sharp, as if it could annihilate everything. In such a situation, it was as if it could kill gods and devils if they tried to block it. Rumble! A hurricane swept out. The murderous aura and Tao radiances trembled. The 49 spirit-devouring paintings shook again and released an even more terrifying murderous aura. Lin Tian's expression changed for the first time. At this moment, even with the support of the Eye of Destiny, he felt a great threat. The 50 of us set up this formation and spent several months. Do you think you can do anything? The 50 powerhouses with 72 wings looked at Lin Tian and spoke coldly. At this moment, with the appearance of the killing formation and the appearance of the spirit-devouring diagrams of the 49 sects, their auras became much stronger. Lin Tian, leave! Don't care about us! Leave! Shinshin and Lin Tian, who was trapped by the formation, Lin Tian and the green robes Lins. The Lin Tianzes and the spirit-devouring paintings the spirit. It was killed. Lin, the brown-haired elder, said coldly. The formation that trapped Shinshin and the green robes man shook again. Dense electric arcs intertwined. It was like a thunder punishment. Shinshin and the green robes man trembled violently. Their bodies cracked at the same time. The coldness on Lin Tian's body surged. He activated the Reincarnation Heart Sutra to the maximum. The 9-colored light shot up into the sky. I'll kill you, he said coldly. He moved immediately. He used the power of Kismet to protect his body. His speed reached a terrifying level. It was as if he had teleported. He appeared in front of the brown-haired elder in an instant. The brown-haired elder's expression changed. He was shocked by Lin Tian's abnormal speed. You die! This time, Lin Tian held his sword with both hands, and the power of the rainbow godly sword soared like a volcanic eruption. With his power, which was infinitely close to the level of a supreme master of the universe, he slashed out a 30,000 zhan long sword aura. With a puff, the brown-haired old man did not have time to defend himself, and was directly smashed into pieces by the sword. His spirit was barely preserved, but more cracks appeared on his spirit, and it even became somewhat faint. Damn it! The divine soul quickly retreated. This person was shocked and furious to the extreme. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He took a step forward and closed in on this person's spirit. The 7-colored divine sword pressed down again. It was also at this moment that there was a rumbling sound. In this place, the killing formation erupted. Dense killing rays descended like the heavens. The other 49 experts with 72 wings mobilized the power of the killing formation to attack Lin Tian, preventing Lin Tian from attacking the brown-haired elder. At the same time, the 49 spirit-devouring diagrams were also mobilized by these people. A terrifying murderous aura directly pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were cold, and his black hair danced wildly. He felt the horror of this sword aura and murderous aura, but at this moment, he did not respond at all. He allowed the attack to press down on him. His eyes shook, and the 9 black moons in his eyes rotated. He directly mobilized another long river of Kismet, forcibly blocking the escape route of the brown-haired elder's spirit, and mercilessly pressing it down. Open for me! A panicked roar was heard. The brown-haired elder's eyes were filled with horror. His spirit burst out with a dazzling light to resist the long river of Kismet. However, it was useless. Faced with such a long river of Kismet, his cracked spirit could not resist at all. No! An unwilling howl was heard. With a whoosh, under the long river of Kismet, his spirit was directly crushed into pieces. At the same time, the killing rays of the killing formation and the boundless murderous aura of the spirit-devouring diagrams from dozens of other 72 winged experts fell on Lin Tian, directly drowning Lin Tian. Even with the protection of Kismet, it still shattered half of Lin Tian's physical body. Divine Blaze! The 49 72 winged experts could not help but be shocked and angry. One of them had been killed by Lin Tian just like that. Including the one who died at Lin Tian's hands more than 100 years ago because he was seriously injured and his saint power had been depleted. 72 winged elders of their clan had been killed by Lin Tian. This made their expressions very ugly, and their eyes were full of anger. At the same time, the martial ancestor and the others were shocked. A moment ago, they were still worried about Lin Tian because the killing formation and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams were too terrifying. However, in the next moment, under the combined attack of the killing formation and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams, Lin Tian actually endured an attack and killed the brown-haired elder among the 50 people. This was a scene that they did not expect. He allowed half of his body to be shattered and killed that old bastard. This kid is really ruthless when he fights. The old gangster took a deep breath. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing and mighty. Outside Lin Tian's body, 9 colors of saint light intertwined, and the shattered half of his physical body reformed in the blink of an eye. In his eyes, 9 black moons lay horizontally, mysterious and unfathomable. He did not say anything. Holding the 7-colored divine sword, he pointed it directly at the 4972 winged experts. More kismet surged, and an even sharper sword power erupted. Human! The 4972 winged experts were even more shocked and angry. The anger in their eyes surged, and the coldness in their eyes became thicker. Chapter 2258. You're just using external items to temporarily increase your strength. Arrogant bug! Take him down! The expressions of the 4972 winged experts were dark and cold. They had lost the 72-winged elder, and Lin Tian had pointed his sword at everyone. The fury in their eyes was extremely dense. Immediately, they charged towards Lin Tian. Whoosh! Whoosh! Chains of order appeared around the 49 powerhouses. They were even stronger than before, and the aura they exuded was terrifying. It was as if they could pierce through the universe. At the same time, the killing formation that had been carved by dozens of powerhouses vibrated on its own. Killing lights filled the sky and shot toward Lin Tian. The 49 complete spirit-devouring diagrams also moved. An even more ferocious murderous aura surged toward Lin Tian. Rumble! Hurricanes swept out, and the destructive aura was like a boiling galaxy. Lin Tian's black hair danced wildly in the wind. He clearly felt threatened, but there was no fear in his eyes. Clang! He waved the rainbow godly sword in his hand and used it to activate the reincarnation sword technique. In a flash, the sky was filled with reincarnation sword lights. At the same time, the eye of destiny trembled slightly. Boundless power of fate appeared and pressed down on the 49 powerhouses. In the blink of an eye, he collided with the 49 powerhouses. The power of fate, the power of order, the light of the divine path, the killing formation, and the boundless murderous aura overlapped with each other. They kept colliding with each other, and there was a rumbling explosion. Bang! A 72-winged powerhouse from the Heaven Protectors was swept away. His head was pierced through by Lin Tian's sword. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere. It was a ghastly sight. The providence in the air surged and surged as another river of providence appeared, enveloping the other 48 people within it. Puff! 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 Blood splattered everywhere. The river of fate was even more terrifying than before. It shook the 48 powerhouses until they all coughed up blood. At the same time, Lin Tian was sent flying. 5 killing formations and 3 chains of order pierced through his body. Blood kept flowing out. Rumble! Baleful aura exploded, and the faces of the several dozen experts with 72 wings turned cold. While healing their wounds, they used their minds to control the killing array and the 49 spirit-devouring diagrams. Once again, a sky full of killing aura pressed down on Lin Tian, and once again, a boundless baleful aura enveloped Lin Tian. 9-colored holy light surged around Lin Tian's body and healed his wounds. His eye of destiny trembled slightly, and his heavenly providence erupted. A huge vortex of providence gushed out immediately, seeming to be able to annihilate all things. Boom! The great vortex of providence appeared directly above the 49 people and swept down toward them. The 49 72-wing powerhouses were instantly enraged. They were launching destructive attacks at Lin Tian, but Lin Tian completely ignored their attacks. It was as if he didn't see their killing intent and attacked them directly. Boom! Boundless murderous light and boundless murderous aura landed directly on Lin Tian's body. With a puff, Lin Tian was smashed into pieces. Almost at the same time, the great vortex of Providence pressed down, covering the 49 72-wing powerhouses at the same time. Puff! 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 Blood splattered everywhere. The 49 powerhouses focused most of their energy on attacking Lin Tian, and the rest on healing their wounds. They couldn't resist the vortex of Providence in time. After being covered, they were all crushed into pieces, and blood splattered everywhere. This kid is simply... The old hoodlum couldn't help but be moved. Lin Tian's fighting style was too ruthless. It was as if he had completely abandoned defense and focused all his energy on attacking. It was simply fighting with his life on the line. A natural warrior, born to fight! Martial ancestors' eyes shone brightly. The primitive emperor, old Taoist, Feng Xintianzuan, and Ao Jiantianzuan's eyes also shone brightly. They were moved by Lin Tian's fighting style. Moreover, they were also shocked by another point. The dozens of 72-wing powerhouses of the Heaven Protector clan had already cast out a great killing formation, and the 49 complete spirit-devouring diagrams. The combined power was extremely terrifying. However, under such circumstances, although Lin Tian was injured and his body was shattered, he wasn't suppressed. His potential is too shocking. The combat strength he can display at this time is far beyond our imagination, the primitive emperor said in a deep voice. Next to him, the little Taichu and the white tiger clenched their claws. They were worried and nervous as they stared at the battlefield in front of them. On the battlefield, billowing saint energy surged like waves, and blood and flesh wriggled. Lin Tian reassembled his body, and so did the 49 72-wing powerhouses. The speed of both sides was almost the same, and they both reassembled their bodies at the same time. Clang! The sound of a sword rang out immediately. Lin Tian's newly reassembled body moved, leaving behind afterimages with each step. He held the 7-colored divine sword and charged toward the 49 72-wing powerhouses. With a slash of his sword, the sky was filled with killing sword aura. At the same time, the power of Providence moved with him, turning from illusory to solid, and once again evolving into a long river of Providence. The 49 72-wing powerhouses had ugly expressions. Such a late human had only temporarily raised his cultivation base with external help, but he had taken the initiative to kill them again and again. Even when they had cast out the great killing formation and the 49 spirit-devouring diagrams, his attitude still hadn't changed. Moreover, he was still able to injure them again and again. Suppress! Someone growled and urged the power of order with all his might, urging the great killing formation and the spirit-devouring diagrams to attack Lin Tian. Lin Tian took a step forward, and after the suppression of the 7-colored divine sword and the power of Providence, the Greater Mastery Perfect World was propped up at this moment. The Greater Mastery Perfect World was intertwined with a vast and distant aura. He propped up this great world, but he didn't use it as a defense. Instead, he extracted the power from it and poured it into his body, causing his essence, energy, and spirit to rise. Bang! 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 With a muffled groan, the 49 72-wing powerhouses were once again sent flying together with some bloodstains. At the same time, several killing rays of light landed on Lin Tian's body and passed through his body, causing a large amount of blood to spurt out. However, Lin Tian didn't seem to have felt it at all, as if he wasn't injured at all. His speed became a little faster, and in the blink of an eye, he closed in on one of the 72-wing powerhouses. This person was relatively far away from the others. After closing in on this person, he directly mobilized all his power, including the power of Providence, the power of the 7-colored divine sword, the power of the Greater Mastery Perfect World, the power of faith, and even the reincarnation diagram of the king's territory. At the same time, he pressed down on this person. You pfft! The 72-wing powerhouse was directly smashed into pieces, and his soul escaped. He was extremely shocked and furious as he flew into the distance. At the same time, the other 48 72-wing powerhouses stabilized their bodies and attacked together. They activated the killing formation and the spirit-devouring diagrams, interweaving the murderous light and murderous aura in the sky and pressing down on Lin Tian. Chapter 2259. The long river of fate pressed down, surging violently. Shatter for me! The 72-winged elite from the Heaven Protector tribe, who was enveloped by the river of fate, roared in shock and fury. The order of his soul could meet the attack with all his might. However, in the situation where he was only left with a weak spirit, this kind of power was really too pale in front of the heaven and earth's fate. It was instantly crushed. Die! Lin Tian opened his mouth, and a cold word came out of his mouth. The long river of fate really pressed down. No! A scream of terror and unwillingness rang out. Accompanied by a soft sound, this person's spirit was directly crushed into pieces by the pressure. At the same time, the killing light and boundless baleful aura of the killing formation mobilized by the other 48 72-winged elites landed on his body, directly drowning him. With a PU, his physical body was shattered into pieces, and a bloody mist and pieces of flesh splattered into the void above. Shanine! The expressions of the 48 72-winged elites became even more ugly, and they were unable to contain their anger. Another 72-winged elder had died. Another 72-winged elder had been killed by Lin Tiansha. Damned human! Someone roared in a low voice. The great killing formation here and the spirit-devouring diagrams of the 49 sects shook together, and pressed down on Lin Tian mightily. The other 47 people also moved together, and the divine chains of order clattered. With a rumble, surging killing light and baleful aura surged toward Lin Tian. The 48 people did not give Lin Tian any chance to recover from his injuries at all. They wanted to use violent attacks to beat Lin Tian until he had no room to retaliate, and then suppress Lin Tian. 1. The heaven and earth's fate surged mightily, and naturally condensed into a vortex of fate, interweaving around Lin Tian's shattered body. All the killing light and baleful aura that pressed down were blocked by this vortex of fate. Inside, Lin Tian's shattered physical body began to recover, and in the blink of an eye, his physique was reformed. In his eyes, the 9 black moons were incomparably mysterious, connected together by strange patterns of Tao, and once again started to revolve. In an instant, the entire illusory flame starry sea began to tremble. Even more fate of heaven and earth surged out, almost enveloping the entire illusory flame starry sea. The fate of heaven and earth was extremely terrifying. With a hiss, all the killing light and boundless murderous aura were shattered. Lin Tian's eyes flickered, and the surging power of providence pressed down with a loud bang, crushing the spirit-devouring diagram into pieces. Can you suppress me? Boundless fortune surrounded his body. His black hair danced in front of his forehead, and his eyes were cold. Everywhere his gaze passed, fortune rolled, and the aura he manifested was even stronger than before. At the same time, he waved the 7-colored divine sword in his hand and activated the reincarnation sword technique. Unparalleled sword power erupted. Clang! The dense reincarnation sword auras shook together with the power of providence, and he took the initiative to attack the 48 people again. The 48 72-winged powerhouses were furious. They activated the divine chains of order, the power of the killing array, and the power of the spirit-devouring diagram together, and faced Lin Tian together. They attacked Lin Tian from 48 different angles, and the destructive aura intertwined wantonly. Lin Tian waved the 7-colored divine sword, and the sword aura was terrifying. He also used the Eye of Destiny to mobilize the power of providence. Wherever his gaze passed, substantial fortune would emerge immediately, as if he had borrowed the origin power of this world to fight. At the same time, the power of the perfect world, the power of faith, and the reincarnation diagram of the king's territory were also propped up by him at this moment. Together with the 7-colored divine sword and the Eye of Destiny, they continuously launched destructive attacks at the 48 72-winged powerhouses. Pft! 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 Blood splattered everywhere. It was the blood of the 48 72-winged powerhouses, as well as Lin Tian's own blood. As the 48 72-winged powerhouses attacked Lin Tian, The anger on their faces became more and more intense. They were now using all the means they had, including the power of the killing array and the spirit-devouring diagrams. When such a lineup was combined, even the Divine Key, who was at his peak back then, couldn't withstand it. He would be suppressed very quickly. However, they couldn't suppress Lin Tian now. At this moment, they were still being suppressed by Lin Tian even with such a lineup. Although the suppression wasn't very obvious, they were still at a disadvantage after all, and they were extremely uncomfortable. Kill! Someone roared furiously and mobilized even more essence, energy, and spirit. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. His body was stained with blood, but he didn't care about it at all. He focused all his energy on attacking. The seven-colored divine sword combined with the Eye of Destiny sent chills down everyone's spines. After another dozen breaths, there were loud bangs. Once again, he used the Eye of Destiny to mobilize boundless providence at the risk of half of his body being smashed. He sent the 48 72-winged powerhouses flying and appeared in front of one of them in a flash. Seeing Lin Tian closing in on him and meeting Lin Tian's cold eyes, the powerhouse couldn't help but tremble. "You die!" These cold words came out of his mouth. His eyes flickered, and a great crack of fate instantly appeared, sucking in the 72-winged elite into it. Then, it closed, and only a shrill scream could be heard from within. Another 72-winged powerhouse! In the distance, the white tiger's heart palpitated. There was no doubt that the crack of destiny was the source of death. The 72-winged powerhouse was dead. On the other side, Martial Ancestor, Primitive Emperor, and the others were also shocked. Dozens of 72-winged powerhouses from the Heaven Protectors had joined forces to attack. Furthermore, they had a terrifying formation and dozens of complete spirit-devouring diagrams. Facing such a formation, Lin Tian had killed another powerhouse. His combat power was too frightening. Lin Tian! On the broken star in the distance, Shinqi and the man in green were trapped in a special formation. They looked at Lin Tian and were shocked by Lin Tian's combat power. However, they were more worried for Lin Tian. Although Lin Tian had killed 3 72-winged powerhouses consecutively, he was also injured continuously. All of this was because of them. While they were worried, they also felt guilty. Human! That sword! The Eye of Destiny! Damn it! Let's see how long that Hengyan advancing heaven elixir can support you! Furious roars rang out. The Heaven Protector tribe had 50 72-winged powerhouses guarding this place. Now, there were only 47 of them left. They had spent several months preparing various methods, but Lin Tian had killed 3 of them in the blink of an eye. This caused the remaining 47 to fly into a rage. The saint energy outside their bodies surged as they launched an even more ferocious attack. Hurricanes swept across the area. Lin Tian's black hair was messy, and his eyes were cold as he faced the attacks head-on. The Eye of Destiny vibrated, and the 7-colored divine sword slashed out. He still gave up all his defenses and focused on attacking. He clashed with the 47 72-winged powerhouses, and he sent them flying again and again. Various forces surged in the area, and a destructive aura filled the area. In the blink of an eye, 15 minutes had passed. Lin Tian destroyed 3 complete spirit-devouring diagrams. With the help of the 7-colored divine sword and the Eye of Destiny, he killed another 72-winged powerhouse. Then, he used the reincarnation diagram and the boundless power of destiny to crush this person's spirit. However, at almost the same time, the attacks of the other 46 powerhouses arrived and landed on him. With a bang, he was sent flying more than 10,000 feet away. He shattered a large star in the distance, and a large amount of blood splattered in the void. Boom! Another 72-winged elder was killed, and the remaining 46 powerhouses became even more furious. After sending Lin Tian flying, all of them acted like Lin Tian. They didn't care about their injuries at all, and directly launched destructive attacks at Lin Tian. With a whoosh, Lin Tian rushed out of the shattered star. Half of his body was badly mutilated, and he relied on the Reincarnation Heart Sutra to repair himself. At the same time, he waved the seven-colored divine sword and mobilized the power of destiny to face the fierce attacks of the 46 powerhouses. Boom! 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 The saint energy was turbulent, and the sea of stars trembled. Amidst the intense clashes, Lin Tian fought 1 against 46. Fate surrounded his body, and his sword aura was sharp. With pure offensive power, he sent the 46 72-winged experts flying again and again. His body was also knocked back time and time again, shattering from time to time. His advantage isn't as obvious as before. His aura seems to be weaker than before. The primitive emperor frowned. The martial progenitor, the old hooligan, and the others frowned when they noticed it. Chapter 2260. What? White Tiger's expression changed upon hearing old Taoist's words. The effect of the eternal Yen Heaven Advancing Elixir was about to wear off. Empyrean Divine Seal and Empyrean Proud Sword couldn't help but frown. Once the medicinal efficacy of the eternal Yama Heaven Ascension pill truly faded away, Lin Tian would be in danger. In a situation where he didn't have enough cultivation to support himself, no matter how great his potential was, no matter how terrifying his Eye of Destiny was, it was impossible for him to contend with dozens of 72-winged powerhouses. Moreover, there was also a massive killing array and dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams. These old dogs, 50 of them together, and they even set up a killing formation and dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams here. Old Taoist gritted his teeth. Boom! Ahead, Saint energy surged. Lin Tian was surrounded by Providence. With the Rainbow Divine Sword and the Eye of Destiny, he was fighting against 46 72-winged experts alone. At the same time, he was also facing the killing formation and dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams. His advantage was getting weaker and weaker. Those dozens of old fogies have suffered heavy injuries. Let's take action as well. While the effects of the Hing Yen Heaven Advancing Pill have yet to wear off, let's coordinate our attacks with Brat Lin. Let's do whatever we can, Old Gangster said in a deep voice. In front of them, there was a super-killing formation and dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams. With their combat strength, they wouldn't be of much help even if they took action. But even so, it was better than standing there and watching. At least they could interfere with the 72-winged experts. Primitive Emperor nodded upon hearing that. Martial Ancestor took action immediately, unleashing his strongest order attack. Old Gangster and Primitive Emperor took action together, followed by Old Taoist. All of them unleashed powerful saint techniques. Fengxing Tianzuan, Aojian Tianzuan, Little Taichu, and White Tiger didn't take action at this time. Compared to them, their current combat strength was too weak. Even if they took action, they wouldn't be able to interfere at all. Instead, it would be counterproductive. Boom! Martial Ancestor, Primitive Emperor, Old Gangster, and Old Taoist stepped into the battlefield and unleashed all kinds of saint techniques. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly when he saw the 4 of them charging into the killing formation. However, he didn't say anything. This wasn't the time for him to be distracted. He waved his rainbow holy sword and used his Eye of Destiny to summon even more fate to crush his opponents. Saint energy vibrated and swept out in all directions. Old Hooligan and the others' attacks were indeed effective. Together with Lin Tian, they sent the 46 72-winged beings flying with loud bangs. Lin Tian took advantage of this opportunity to appear in front of one of the 72-winged experts. He wielded the rainbow sword with both hands. He mobilized boundless fate to gather around the rainbow sword and slashed down at the person's head. Pooh! Blood splashed out, and this person was directly smashed to pieces. Only his soul was sturdy and undying, and he quickly retreated with a look of shock and anger. However, Lin Tian didn't give him a chance at all. His Eye of Destiny trembled slightly as he opened up a crack in Destiny and sucked this person's soul into it. After a cry of despair and unwillingness, the crack in Destiny closed up. Bastard! The other 45 72-winged experts roared angrily. The killing formation and the dozens of spiritual devouring diagrams went berserk. Among them, Another 72 winged elder was killed by Lin Tiansha. The 45 of them worked together, and the berserk saint energy pressed down on Lin Tian mercilessly. At the same time, the killing light of the killing formation and the murderous aura of the spiritual devouring diagrams pressed down on the old Taoist priest, the old hooligan, and the others. "You old bastards, since you're so eager to die, I'll fulfill your wishes," one of the 72 winged experts said coldly. The killing light and murderous aura surged and swept towards the old Taoist priest, the old hooligan, and the others. The 4 of them used their saint energy to defend themselves, and they used the power of order to protect themselves. However, the killing formation and the dozens of spiritual devouring diagrams were too terrifying. They easily shattered all of their defenses and landed firmly on their bodies. Instantly, pu pu pu. Blood splattered everywhere as the 4 of them exploded. The 4 of them quickly regathered their physical bodies, and their faces instantly became extremely solemn. The great killing formation and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams in this place were too powerful. They couldn't withstand the combined power of dozens of 72 winged experts. "Die!" a chilling voice rang out. The dozens of 72 winged experts once again activated the killing formation and the dozens of spiritual devouring diagrams. They interweaved an even more terrifying attack with the power of order mixed within. Once again, it blasted towards the martial ancestor, the old hooligan, and the others. It was also at this time that Lin Tian broke through the killing light and boundless murderous aura of the killing formation that was pressing down on him. Using the power of providence and the 7-colored divine sword, he slashed towards them and shattered the killing light and murderous aura that was pressing down on the primitive emperor and the others. "Senior, all of you go out of the formation. I'll deal with it alone," he said as he made his move again. With the power of providence, he forcefully pushed the primitive emperor, the old hooligan, and the others out of the battlefield. In a one-on-one battle, the old Taoist and the others didn't lack the 72 winged elders of the Heaven Protector clan. However, the dozens of elders of the clan had engraved a killing formation in this place, and there were dozens of spiritual devouring diagrams. Under such circumstances, the martial ancestor and the others couldn't withstand it. If they forcefully fought in this battlefield, their lives would soon be in danger. "Kid, you!" The old hooligan couldn't help but open his mouth when the 4 of them were forcefully pushed out of the battlefield. However, he didn't say anything in the end. He knew very well that if they continued to stay in the killing formation, they wouldn't be of any help to Lin Tian. They would only be trapped in a death situation. And Lin Tian was worried that they would be in danger, so he forcefully pushed them out of the killing formation. The old Taoist and the others naturally knew this. Their faces were solemn as they stared at the battlefield in front of them. The little Taichu and the white tiger, on the other hand, were filled with worry. As the effects of the eternal inferno heaven advancing pill gradually weakened, Lin Tian's advantage at this moment was almost gone. "Lin Tian, don't worry about us. Hurry up and leave! Go! Hurry up and leave!" On the broken star, Shin Qi and the green-robed man shouted. Naturally, they could see that Lin Tian's advantage was rapidly disappearing, and his battle strength was declining. If this continued, he would definitely be suppressed in this place. They felt that they had let down their daughter in this life. Now, if their daughter's husband were to suffer because of them, they wouldn't be able to accept it. Even if they died, they wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Lin Tian's clothes were stained with blood. When he heard Shin Qi and the green-robed man's voices, he didn't respond. He only shook his head. Shin Qi was Wu Yi's mother, and the green-robed man was Wu Yi's father. Wu Yi hadn't even seen them once. How could he abandon them and leave? Even if he died, he had to save them. Clang! He shook the divine sword in his hand, and the sword whistled. Unparalleled sword radiance slashed towards the dozens of 72 winged powerhouses. At the same time, his eye of destiny moved slightly, and another river of fate appeared. It pressed down mightily. 45 72 winged powerhouses' faces were cold, and their eyes were filled with anger. Their saint power was vast, and they activated the great killing formation and dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams. They attacked Lin Tian mercilessly. Boom! 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 Lin Tian fought fiercely with the 45 powerhouses. Hurricanes swept out, and blood splattered everywhere. In the blink of an eye, 15 minutes had passed. Lin Tian's aura had weakened even more. He no longer had any advantage in the fight with the 45 powerhouses. He could only fight them to a draw. External power is still external power. How long can you last? Today, the only outcome for you is to be suppressed, one of them said mercilessly. As Lin Tian's advantage had completely dissipated, he could no longer suppress them. He could only fight them to a draw. Furthermore, they knew that as time passed, Lin Tian's battle prowess would continue to weaken. The anger in their eyes began to extinguish, and they became cold once more. The feeling of everything being under control returned to them once more. To the side, a purple-robed 72-winged elder glanced at Shen Qi and the green-robed man. His gaze landed on Lin Tian again, and he said coldly, I heard that the bastard of those two is your partner, and they even have a descendant. With that, he formed a few seals with one hand, and a strange formation immediately opened up beside him. There were 2 drops of essence blood in it, and their auras were exactly the same as Shen Qi and the green-robed man's. It seemed to have been prepared from the beginning, and it opened up at this moment. A large spatial door immediately opened. I'll let you reunite with your family before you die. Chapter 2261. 1. The Tao formation shook. The Divine Key's origin blood essence and the azure-robed man's origin blood essence resided within, glowing brightly. The propped-up spatial door trembled. Inside, strands of strange light interweaved. It will take some time to get here from another universe, the purple-robed elder said coldly. On the remnant star, the expressions of the Divine Key and the azure-robed man immediately changed. They didn't know when their blood essence was taken away, but they knew that the purple-robed elder was using their blood essence as a medium to forcibly bring their blood-related daughter here. Even their granddaughter would be forcibly brought here as well. Elder, stop! The Divine Key couldn't help but say, revealing an anxious expression. He struggled fiercely, wanting to escape from the divine formation that sealed them outside. Unfortunately, it was useless. That divine formation took several months of effort from several dozen experts with 72 wings. It was very difficult to break through. The azure-robed man also struggled, but it was useless. He couldn't escape from the divine formation at all. The old Taoist priest, the old hooligan, and the others were all moved. They knew a bit about Wu Yi and Ruoxian. At this time, seeing the purple-robed elder use the Divine Key and the azure-robed man's blood essence to forcibly capture Wu Yi and Ruoxian, they couldn't help but frown. The suppression of the Divine Key and the azure-robed man already made it very troublesome for Lin Tian. His situation was very bad. If Wu Yi and Ruoxian were forcibly brought here and fell into the hands of the Heaven Protectors, it would undoubtedly be even worse. Little Taichu and the White Tiger's eyes were also filled with worry, but more than that, there was a somewhat strange expression. Forcibly capture Princess Wu Yi? The White Tiger opened his mouth. Why do I feel like he's courting death? Clang! An ear-piercing sword cry suddenly erupted. A piercing cold light shot out from Lin Tian's eyes. He fiercely slashed at the Tao formation in front of him. At the same time, he stepped forward, mobilizing boundless luck, and punched at the purple-robed elder. Dog! I'll kill you! This person actually set his sights on Wu Yi and Ruoxian, and even insulted Wu Yi as a vile spawn. This caused him to erupt with monstrous anger and killing intent. You want to destroy the array? The current, you can't do it! The purple-robed elder said coldly. Together with the other 44 72-winged cultivators, they attacked Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were filled with ferocity. His eye of destiny vibrated, and the 9 black moons in his eyes started to spin at the same time. An extremely violent power of providence burst out, and the entire illusory flame starry sea shook. Inch by inch, the universe was torn apart. Chi! 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 In an instant, 3 spirit-devouring diagrams were shattered, and the violet-clothed old man and the others retreated simultaneously. It seems that you care a lot about them. Is that your reverse scale? The purple-clothed old man laughed coldly, appearing rather cruel. I wonder what kind of expression you'll have when I kill them right before your eyes. Will he break down and go crazy? The killing intent in Lin Tian's eyes intensified to the extreme. The ferocity in his eyes intensified, and the rainbow divine sword aura instantly filled the sky. Unparalleled power of providence, and the power of the divine sword pressed towards the purple-clothed old man at the same time. The purple-clothed old man laughed coldly and joined forces with the other 44. At this point, they were no longer afraid of Lin Tian. Primordial Universe, Celestial Territory. In the Celestial Territory, in a special tomb, Wu Yi led Ruoxian, the Violet Fairy, Shui Yi, Ji Yu, and the others into this special tomb. They were already close to the depths of this tomb. At this moment, the space behind them suddenly split open. A spatial door appeared horizontally, intertwining with hazy divine light, and directly sucked Wu Yi and Ruoxian in. At the same time, the spatial door instantly disappeared. Sister Wu Yi! Shui Yi, Ji Yu, and the others instantly paled. The Violet Fairy's expression changed as well. This scene is very similar to the scene back at the Misty Mountain. Someone is using a special method to forcefully detain Wu Yi, and even little Ruoxian is being detained together with him. As she spoke, there was no trace of worry in her eyes. Who is doing it? Did they eat the guts of a god? Universe of Xianhuang, illusory flame starry sea. Boom! Lin Tian's eyes shone with ferocity. The power of providence, and the power of the rainbow divine sword surged as they violently attacked the purple-clothed old man. The purple-clothed old man and the other 44 72-wing powerhouses worked together to stop him. However, Lin Tian's eyes were filled with ferocity at this moment, and he focused all of his attacks on the purple-clothed old man. Even though the purple-clothed old man had the help of the other 44 powerhouses, as well as the Great Killing Formation and dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams, he was still repeatedly injured by Lin Tian, who was filled with murderous intent. Pfft! Lin Tian swung his sword, forcibly withstanding the attacks of the other 44 powerhouses, and his sword pierced through the purple-clothed old man. Blood splattered across the sky. The purple-clothed old man's eyes surged with fury again. Lin Tian was completely focused on him at this moment, making him extremely uncomfortable. It was also at this moment that there was a hum, and the spatial door created by the formation trembled. A ball of strange light wrapped around Wu Yi and Ruoxian as they streaked out of the spatial door. Immediately, everyone turned their heads to look. Everyone had different expressions on their faces. On the remnant star, within the divine formation, Shinqi and the man in green could not help but tremble at the same time. Their gazes landed on Wu Yi at the same time. The aura of the same bloodline made them extremely excited, and then extremely anxious. This was because Wu Yi and Ruoxian beside him had been forcibly captured here. They were currently in the Great Killing Formation controlled by the purple-clothed old man and the others. The two of them began to struggle madly, wanting to charge out of the divine formation. However, it was still useless. Wu Yi! Ruoxian! Lin Tian shouted loudly. At the same time, he took a step forward and quickly rushed towards the formation. Wu Yi's white clothes were whiter than snow. He seemed extremely quiet. When he heard Lin Tian's voice, he looked in Lin Tian's direction. Father! Ruoxian beside him heard the voice and naturally looked over. She could not help but call out. Suddenly being swept from the celestial realm to this unfamiliar place, she was curious and felt that it was strange. At this moment, when she heard Lin Tian's voice and saw that Lin Tian was actually here, she could not help but be moved. Lin Tian was very fast. His sword light filled the sky, shattering waves of murderous aura and killing light as he rushed towards Wu Yi and Ruoxian. Several experts with 72 wings snorted coldly and attacked at the same time, stopping him. The dozens of people ignored Ruoxian and only looked at Wu Yi. His appearance, which was the same as Shinqi's, made the group of people's eyes turn extremely cold. Same appearance, similar aura. You are indeed the bastard child of that man, and you. The purple-robed elder raised his hand and directly grabbed towards Wu Yi. At the same time, he also covered Ruoxian with his hand. Both of you are a disgrace to our clan. With a rumble, his large hand intertwined with the aura of order, suppressing all directions. In the blink of an eye, it landed on top of Wu Yi's head. Elder, stop! Stop! Shinki shouted. He was almost crazy. Together with the green-robed man, he crazily crashed into the divine formation outside. Yi! Xiao Xian! Little Taichu could not help but shout. The murderous light in Lin Tian's eyes was extremely sharp. With a wild roar, he shook off the other 44 experts with 72 wings and rushed towards Wu Yi with extreme speed. Chapter 2262. The huge star collapsed, and the sky was filled with debris. The purple-clad elder let out a muffled groan, and billowing smoke rose into the air. On the remnant star, seeing the purple-clad elder grabbing at Wu Yi, Shinki and the green-clad man were extremely anxious. They were almost going crazy, and they were desperately trying to break the special divine formation outside. However, when they saw this scene, they were instantly stunned. Just now, what happened? In the illusory flame star ocean, outside the killing formation, martial ancestor, primitive emperor, old ruffian, and old Taoist were all shocked. The purple-clad elder of the Heaven Guardian clan raised his hand to grab at Wu Yi. They were still worried at first, but in the next moment, the purple-clad elder was suddenly sent flying. During the entire process, they did not even see Wu Yi make any movements. On the side, Fengxin Tianzuan and Ao Jian Tianzuan could not help but be slightly shocked. The purple-clad elder's giant handprint was absolutely terrifying, but the following scene was actually like this. The purple-clad elder himself was sent flying. This. The white tiger's voice trembled with a hint of excitement. Tiger Grandpa feels more and more that old thing is really courting death. Yeah. The little Taichu's eyes were round and bright. It clenched its little paws and looked at Wu Yi in surprise. Although it and the white tiger did not see Wu Yi make a move like martial ancestor and the others, they were very clear that the purple-clad elder being sent flying was definitely related to Wu Yi. In the killing formation, Lin Tian was originally rushing towards Wu Yi and Ruoxian, worried about the mother and daughter. When he saw this scene, he could not help but stop. The purple-clad elder who made a move was suddenly sent flying. This scene was too familiar. When Xuezhu attacked Wu Yi in the Extreme Temple, it was exactly the same scene. What's going on? The other 44 experts with 72 wings could not help but stop moving at this moment. All of them were shocked by this scene. This place instantly became much quieter, and one could faintly hear the sound of a gentle breeze blowing past. Wu Yi was wearing a white dress. She didn't seem to notice the elder in purple. She didn't show any emotion when she was dragged here. She moved her eyes away from Lin Tian and looked at the broken star. She looked at the divine key and the man in blue. They had the same appearance, but their auras were extremely similar. Looking at the divine key, looking at the green-clothed male, her expression didn't change much, but there was an extremely obvious fluctuation in her eyes. On the broken star, the divine key and the man in cyan were trapped in the divine matrix. When they met Wu Yi's eyes, they trembled. They were a little excited, and then they looked away as if they didn't dare to look at Wu Yi. Beside Wu Yi, Ruoxian followed Wu Yi's gaze and saw Shinki and the green-robed man. Then, her gaze landed on Shinki and her beautiful eyes widened. Mother, you have sisters? On the surface, Shinki looked exactly the same as Wu Yi, but their auras were obviously different. Lin Tian looked at Wu Yi, then at the divine key and the man in cyan on the broken star. He didn't say anything at this moment. In fact, he knew that Wu Yi must have sensed something. Wu Yi's white dress was whiter than snow. She looked like a person from a painting. Although she looked the same as Shinki, her aura was much better than Shinki's. She gave people the feeling that even though they looked the same, she was actually much more beautiful than Shinki. That kind of beauty was hard to find words to describe. Even the illusory flame starry sea lost its color because of her appearance. Mother? Ruoxian pulled Wu Yi's clothes. Wu Yi's gaze landed on the broken star. At this moment, she was a little absent-minded. Being pulled by Ruoxian, Wu Yi recovered a little. She didn't stand there anymore and walked towards Lin Tian. However, as she walked towards Lin Tian, her eyes were still on Shinqi and the man in cyan. Ruoxian quickly followed and pulled Wu Yi's clothes. At this moment, there was a rumble. In the distance, the elder in purple had recovered from his injuries. He rushed back at this moment, his eyes full of anger. Previously, he was the one who attacked Wu Yi. Wu Yi didn't move, but in the end, he was the one who was injured. What are you waiting for? Suppress her and her descendants, the man said coldly. He attacked again, his real body pressing down on Wu Yi. The other 44 strong cultivators with 72 wings paused for a moment, then immediately attacked together, grabbing at Wu Yi. In an instant, 45 majestic waves of saint energy surged, shaking heaven and earth. The 45 strong cultivators with 72 wings all approached with their real bodies. Their bodies were intertwined with order, which was extremely terrifying. Facing this scene, Ruoxian was frightened and couldn't help but shrink her neck. You're courting death! Lin Tian's eyes shot out a cold light. Holding the 7-colored divine sword, he immediately rushed towards that place. However, in the next moment, he was moved and couldn't help but stop. Wu Yi walked towards him. She didn't seem to see the 45 strong cultivators surrounding her. Her eyes were always on Shinqi and the man in cyan. However, after the 45 of them rushed over, they couldn't get close to Wu Yi and Ruoxian. It felt as if Wu Yi and Ruoxian were walking in another space. The 45 strong cultivators with 72 wings naturally changed their expressions. They were all shocked. What's going on? Dozens of them attacked, and their attacks became fiercer. The aura of order and divine Tao law appeared together. However, it was still useless. All the killing light disappeared around Wu Yi, and they couldn't disturb Ruoxian who was beside Wu Yi. They launched an even fiercer attack. Their real bodies rushed forward, but the result was the same. They couldn't get close no matter what. On the broken star, Shinqi and the man in cyan changed their expressions. Outside the killing array, martial ancestor and primitive emperor were also shocked. The old gangster suddenly trembled. Old man, I remember now. She comprehended order at the godly king level, and she's extremely skilled in it. This girl is very scary. In terms of talent, she's probably not much worse than a human emperor. What? Martial ancestor and primitive emperor were shocked when they heard the old gangster's words. What kind of person was a human emperor? A truly invincible existence. The 2 words human emperor were enough to crush all eternity. Now that they heard the old gangster say that Wu Yi's talent wasn't much worse than a human emperor, the 2 supreme masters of the universe were shocked. She's indeed very scary. In terms of talent, she's indeed not much worse than our master, Feng Xingtianzhen said in a low voice. He had seen Wu Yi in action at Extreme Yin Temple. Rumble. In the killing array, the 45 72-winged beings of the Heaven Protector clan used all kinds of methods to attack Wu Yi. However, it was useless. All the attacks couldn't land on Wu Yi. Wu Yi took Ruoxian and seemed to be walking in another space. His steps were very gentle, and no attacks could touch him. He looked at Shinqi and the man in cyan on the broken star while walking toward Lin Tian with Ruoxian. After 10 breaths of time, he left the 45 72-winged beings of the Heaven Protector clan behind him and arrived in front of Lin Tian. At this time, he also retracted his gaze from Shinqi and the man in cyan and looked at Lin Tian, whose clothes were stained with blood. Are you okay? Chapter 2263. As Wu Yi spoke, Ruoxian also spoke up. She looked at Lin Tian with concern. Father, how are you? Are your injuries serious? Does it hurt? I'm fine. It's just a small injury. Lin Tian looked at Wu Yi and Ruoxian. He chuckled and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His body was stained with blood. However, most of it was the blood of his enemies. He didn't have much blood on him. Then, he looked at Wu Yi and couldn't help but feel shocked. What kind of height had Wu Yi reached? The dozens of 72 winged elders of the Heaven Protector tribe attacked together, but they couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. This girl. In the distance, outside the killing formation, the old Taoist looked at Wu Yi and couldn't help but tremble. The 45-72 winged experts of the Heaven Protector tribe attacked Wu Yi together, but they were completely ignored by Wu Yi. It felt as if the entire process of the 45 people attacking Wu Yi was like a sideshow. On the Broken Star, Shin Qi and the azure-robed man were completely stunned. They had been worried about Wu Yi and were afraid that the Heaven Protector tribe would harm Wu Yi. However, they didn't expect Wu Yi, their daughter, to be so powerful. She had far surpassed all the 72 winged experts here. Inside the killing formation, the purple-robed elder and the other 45-72 winged experts were all shocked. How is this possible? They couldn't believe it. The 45 of them attacked together, but they couldn't even get close to Wu Yi. Even Shin Qi, who was at his peak, couldn't do something like this. However, their expressions quickly turned dark and cold again. Sacrificial killing formation, sacrificial spirit devouring diagrams. Capture those 3 people together, the purple-robed elder said coldly. He immediately formed a seal and activated the killing formation and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams. The killing formation and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams here were the trump cards they had spent months preparing. He believed that this killing formation and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams would be enough to suppress everyone here. At the same time, the other 44 powerhouses with 72 wings also made hand seals and worked together to activate the killing formation and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams. Instantly, killing light and evil qi filled the sky and pressed down on Lin Tian, Wu Yi, and Ruoxian. This attack was undoubtedly very frightening, causing Ruoxian to shrink back in fear. Protect Ruoxian, Lin Tian said to Wu Yi. He took a step forward and waved the 7-colored divine sword in his hand, activating the reincarnation sword technique. In an instant, the reincarnation sword light filled the sky, shattering the killing light of the killing array and the evil aura of the spirit-devouring diagram. His eyes were cold as he stared at the purple-robed elder. After shattering the killing light of the killing array and the evil aura of the spirit-devouring diagram, his speed suddenly increased. He directly stepped in front of the purple-robed elder and waved the reincarnation fist with his other hand. With a boom, this punch was extremely violent. With the enhancement of the luck, the punch shattered the defensive light curtain that the purple-robed elder hastily put up and landed steadily on his chest. Puff! Blood splattered, and the purple-robed elder was immediately smashed into pieces. Only his divine soul was still intact and quickly escaped. At the same time, the killing light of the killing array and the evil aura of the spirit-devouring diagram shook. The other 44 powerhouses worked together to activate the killing light and the evil aura of the spirit-devouring diagram. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He only stared at the purple-robed elder and completely ignored the other 44 powerhouses. He moved quickly in the illusory flame star ocean, leaving behind afterimages. In the blink of an eye, he was close to the purple-robed elder's divine soul. Clang! The 7-colored divine sword waved, and the sword light filled the sky. It directly pierced a hole in the purple-robed elder's divine soul. Human! The purple-robed elder was extremely shocked and furious. His divine soul retreated again. Lin Tian was still targeting him, and his eyes were filled with anger. However, his speed was far inferior to Lin Tian's. Lin Tian stepped forward, and in the blink of an eye, he was close to the purple-robed elder again. Die! His eyes were filled with killing light. He did not care about the other 44 powerhouses who had surpassed him. The 7-colored divine sword pressed down on the purple-robed elder again. At the same time, the Eye of Destiny vibrated, and a huge vortex of luck pressed down together. The purple-robed elder did not escape this time. His divine soul was engulfed by the power of the divine sword and the vortex of luck. Damn it! Open up! The purple-robed elder roared in horror. He used his divine soul to cast a spell, and his soul light shone brightly. He wanted to open up the power of the divine sword and the vortex of luck, but it was useless. Lin Tian's attack was filled with killing intent. The power of the divine sword and the vortex of luck tore at the purple-robed elder's divine soul crazily. The destructive intent that was brewing within was extremely terrifying. No! After 2 breaths, the purple-robed elder screamed in despair and unwillingness. His divine soul was torn to shreds. At this moment, the killing light of the other 44 powerhouses pressed down on him. Lin Tian quickly held up his perfect world and reincarnation divine domain to block this wave of attacks. The 672-winged elder! Outside the killing formation, the eyes of the old gangster and the others twitched. Now, Lin Tian's aura was weakening, and he no longer had the initial advantage. However, in this situation, facing dozens of 72-winged powerhouses, a killing formation, and dozens of soul-devouring diagrams, he had killed another 72-winged powerhouse. His potential was too shocking. Bastard! The other 44 72-winged powerhouses were furious. How long had it been? In this place, 6 72-winged elders had died at the hands of Lin Tian. Their clan had been passed down for so long, and they had never suffered such a huge loss. Kill! Someone roared. At this moment, they didn't care about Wu Yi and Ruoxian at all. All the attacks were directed at Lin Tian. Boom, 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 dozens of saintly auras surged. The killing light of the killing formation and dozens of soul-devouring diagrams boiled. Lin Tian waved the 7-colored divine sword and controlled the power of fate. He faced the 44 powerhouses head-on without any fear. For a moment, all kinds of powerful forces collided here. In the vicinity, one big star after another was directly shattered. He waved his sword and sent dozens of people flying. However, the attacks of the other 72-winged powerhouses also landed on him. This time, he was heavily injured, but his expression didn't change. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra healed itself. He waved the 7-colored divine sword in his hand again. Together with the Eye of Destiny, he controlled the power of fate to attach to the divine sword and killed dozens of 72-winged powerhouses. His aura weakened again. Now, outside the killing formation, the old gangster and the others frowned. At this moment, Lin Tian's aura weakened even more. He had completely lost his advantage. Vaguely, he was at a disadvantage. Boom! Within the killing formation, saintly auras surged. The 44 72-winged powerhouses worked together, and the killing light kept pressing on Lin Tian. External forces are still external forces. You can't do it anymore, one of them said coldly. You damn thing. You're clearly just an ant, but you actually caused our clan to lose 7 elders. This has never happened since ancient times. You deserve to die. The other 43 powerhouses' eyes were extremely cold. The killing light that they activated became even fiercer. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. As the eternal inferno heaven advancing pill's effects started to fade, his combat power started to weaken. At this moment, his body was trembling from the killing light that the dozens of people activated together. However, there was no fear in his eyes. You can't do anything to me. Today, you'll all be buried here, he said coldly. Almost as soon as he finished speaking, the melodious sound of a flute was heard. It was like thousands of saintly sounds that cleansed the world. Wu Yi's white dress was like snow. Her expression was calm. At this moment, she played the Reincarnation Tribulation song with Thousand Snow. Boom! Chapter 2264. Blood splattered everywhere, sprinkling in the air. It was a ghastly sight. What's going on? His aura, why? The old hooligan, the martial ancestor, and the others were all shocked. A moment ago, Lin Tian's aura was still weakening, but now, it suddenly soared, causing them to be shocked. It seems to be the sound of this flute. Their gazes involuntarily landed on Wu Yi's body. They did not feel anything unusual about this flute music. However, at this moment, They instantly guessed that Lin Tian's soaring battle strength was definitely related to this flute music. "This is the reincarnation tribulation crossing song!" "Yeah!" Little Tai Chu and White Tiger were pleasantly surprised and excited. They knew about the existence of the reincarnation tribulation crossing song. Wu Yi spent 1,000 years to create it, and only Lin Tian and Wu Yi could use it. It was only effective for Lin Tian and Wu Yi, and it could be used together with the reincarnation forging divine art to increase one's battle strength by hundreds of times. And they were also very clear that Lin Tianyi had been using the reincarnation forging divine art. Then, when Wu Yi played the reincarnation tribulation crossing song, the reincarnation forging divine art that Lin Tian was using resonated with it, and his battle strength naturally began to soar explosively. The melodious flute sound drifted in the illusory flame starry sea. It was gentle and soft, like a gentle breeze, as if it could purify all things in the world. Outside Lin Tian's body, the holy light was resplendent. The reincarnation forging divine art and the reincarnation tribulation crossing song affected each other. His life source erupted with the most dazzling light, and waves of surging power continuously surged out of his body. His battle strength increased exponentially. In the blink of an eye, it increased by 100 times, then 200 times, and finally 500 times. Reincarnation Heart Sutra, Reincarnation Forging Divine Art, Reincarnation Tribulation Crossing Song. Light flashed in his eyes. The Reincarnation Heart Sutra he had created was perfectly compatible with his reincarnation origin, allowing him to unleash his full potential. When the Reincarnation Heart Sutra had just been completed, he had used the Reincarnation Forging Spirit technique, which had increased his combat strength from 10 times to 20 times. Now, with the Reincarnation Heart Sutra combined with the Reincarnation Forging Spirit technique and Wu Yi's Reincarnation Tribulation Transcendence Song, the catalysis between the three had been stimulated to the peak, directly increasing his combat strength by 500 times. He instantly thought of this at this moment. How did you? When the 44 heaven protectors with 72 wings stabilized themselves, their faces paled as they looked at Lin Tian. At this time, in their perception, Lin Tian seemed to have changed into a different person. The aura he emitted caused them to involuntarily feel a chill. Lin Tian looked at these 44 people, the powerful aura he was emitting at this moment sweeping out like a hurricane, blowing the black hair in front of his forehead until it danced wantonly. His eyes were deep and cold. In the next moment he moved. With a single step, he disappeared on the spot and appeared in front of one of the dozens of people in an instant. His speed was too fast, so fast that it was a little frightening. This caused the 72-winged expert to be shocked. You boom! Lin Tian punched out with a ferocious momentum, carrying 500 times his combat strength. It almost shattered the illusory flame starry sea and completely sealed the space around the person, making it impossible for him to retreat. Lin Tian's fist landed on the person's chest. Puff! Blood splattered and dazzled. The person was directly smashed into pieces by Lin Tian's punch. Even his divine soul had a crack. He retreated with a look of horror and fled thousands of feet away in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. There were 9 black moons in each of his eyes. They were connected to each other by special Dao patterns. He swept his gaze toward the opponent's divine soul. Immediately, a vortex of fate appeared at that place. It had a diameter of 3 feet and sucked in the opponent's divine soul as soon as it appeared. Ah! A scream of despair and fear came out from it. It quickly disappeared, and then the vortex of fate closed. God's ho! The other 43 72-winged great beings trembled. Someone couldn't help but cry out. Another 72-winged elder died at the hands of Lin Tian. At the same time, the old hooligan and the others were frightened. They couldn't help but gasp. In an instant, the old Taoist's eyes widened. Lin Tian was a universe supreme being of the same level as him, a 72-winged being from the Heaven Protector race. Yet, at this moment, as Lin Tian's battle prowess skyrocketed, he was actually obliterated by Lin Tian in an instant. Wu Yi played the flute in the big killing formation. Her eyes were gentle, and her expression was calm. She was like a fairy from another world. In the killing formation, endless killing lights swept over. From time to time, there were killing lights falling toward her and Russian. However, they couldn't really get close to her. Those that came within 3 feet of her would either change directions or disappear immediately. Shinki and the man in cyan were trapped in the godly formation on the broken star. They watched without blinking. Their eyes fell on Wui, and they couldn't help but flicker. The daughter they had been worried about was so powerful. Her strength had far surpassed theirs. The flute kept playing, and it led to the harmony of 10,000 das. The entire illusory flame-starry sea was surrounded by this melody. This melody was gentle and pleasant. Lin Tian's eyes were deep. Holy light circled around his body. It was blazing and brilliant. He looked at the other 43 72-winged great beings and didn't stop at all. He directly charged toward them. Clang! He casually waved the 7-colored divine sword in his hand. With the support of 500 times his combat power, a sword aura instantly crossed the distance of 10,000 feet and landed on one of them. With a poof, the 72-winged great being didn't even have time to defend himself. He was directly smashed into pieces. Only his soul didn't die. He quickly retreated with shock and anger. Lin Tian's eyes were deep. 9 black moons intertwined with his eye of destiny. He glanced indifferently, and instantly opened a big crack in fate. He directly sucked the great being's soul into it. No! The screams were ear-piercing. They were mixed with fear and despair. Then, the voice disappeared. The crack in fate that had appeared instantly closed. The other 42 72-winged great beings were completely enraged. Another 72-winged great being had died at the hands of Lin Tian. They all exploded with murderous intent. Activate the killing formation and the soul-devouring diagram! Someone shouted angrily. 42 72-winged experts gathered together, and the killing array here instantly flared up. The remaining dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams trembled, and the sky was filled with resentful spirits roaring. Baleful auras filled the sky as 2 terrifying energies pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. Wherever his gaze passed, fate would immediately surge. In an instant, all the murderous light and evil chi were annihilated. His gaze landed on one of the 42 people. A long river of fate appeared behind that person. It forcefully sucked him in and crushed him. Only his soul didn't shatter. He frantically struggled and tried to escape. However, it was useless. Chapter 2265. Fate intertwined, and another heaven protector with 72 wings was killed. Not even a drop of blood was spilled. In the illusory flame astral ocean, there were only 41 people left out of the original 50. Bastard! Kill! These people looked at Lin Tian, and all of them were extremely furious. The 41 people roared and activated the killing formation and dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams again. Violent killing light, countless vengeful spirits, and surging murderous aura surged together. Moreover, the dozens of people worked together to activate the divine chains of order. With a clattering sound, they pierced through the void and charged straight at Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He faced this attack head-on. His eye of destiny trembled slightly, and fate crushed everything in an instant. He swung his fist, and the might of the reincarnation fist surged. Under the superposition of 500 times strength, a single punch was enough to send all 41 people flying while vomiting blood. Then, he swung his second punch, and consecutively destroyed more than 10 complete spirit-devouring diagrams. Merge! The 41 people stabilized themselves. Someone roared, and the remaining dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams merged together, forming an even more terrifying spirit-devouring diagram. Many vengeful spirits were forcefully merged together, and the murderous aura became even more terrifying. The 41 people worked together to activate the spirit-devouring diagram. It swallowed everything and swept everything, pressing down on Lin Tian mercilessly. Hurricanes swept out, and the destruction was wanton. The old hooligan and the others couldn't help but tremble. This attack was just too terrifying. It was as if it could corrode everything. Suppress! The 41 people shouted in unison. The spirit-devouring diagram suppressed everything, and it arrived above Lin Tian's head in the blink of an eye. Lin Tian's expression didn't change. He looked up at the spirit-devouring diagram. He didn't move, but his eyes flickered. Dozens of vortexes of destiny appeared around the great spirit-devouring diagram, interweaving with the vast and majestic power of heaven and earth. With a sizzling sound, they directly shattered the great spirit-devouring diagram formed by dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams. In an instant, the vengeful spirits in the killing formation all disappeared. The murderous aura also disappeared with them. His eyes were deep and cold. His gaze flickered again, and the denser ray patterns in this great killing formation were instantly annihilated. This is really... In the distance, the old Taoist couldn't help but tremble. He was so shocked by Lin Tian's strength that he felt a chill run down his spine. This is heaven-defying! Heaven-defying! The old hooligan was speechless. Dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams merged into one and were instantly shattered. Dozens of 72-winged powerhouses joined forces and spent months to carve the great killing formation in this place, but it was also completely destroyed in an instant. And all of this happened with just a glance from Lin Tian. The Eye of Destiny controls the destiny of the heavens and the earth. It surpasses the natural order. With enough cultivation, it's simply... The Yuan Emperor's eyes gleamed. Shin Kei and the green-robed man on the huge remnant star in the distance were also shocked. At this moment, they shifted their gazes from Wu Yi to Lin Tian and Lin Tian's Eye of Destiny. Their eyes couldn't help but flicker. "Daddy, your divine eyes are so cool!" Wu Xian shouted. Only Wu Yi was very calm. He played the Reincarnation Tribulation Transcendence song with thousand snow cries, and the melodious flute music drifted across the entire illusory flame starry sea. The flute music matched the reincarnation forging spirit art and resonated with each other, causing the holy light around Lin Tian to surge. 41 72-winged powerhouses looked at Lin Tian. They were all stained with blood and couldn't help but retreat in shock and anger. At the same time, they couldn't help but look at Wu Yi in the distance. Their eyes were all filled with regret. How could this be? There were dozens of them. They had taken the essence blood from Shin Kei and the green-robed man, and used their essence blood as a medium to set up a forceful capture formation. Then, they captured Wu Yi here. They wanted to suppress Lin Tian and Wu Yi's family here, but they didn't expect that Wu Yi's strength was completely beyond their imagination. All of them attacked together, but they couldn't even get close to Wu Yi. At this moment, Lin Tian's battle strength had suddenly skyrocketed to an unimaginable level. They all knew that it had something to do with Wu Yi and the flute music Wu Yi was playing. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! They clenched their fists. Originally, Lin Tian's battle prowess had been constantly weakening. If no one had interfered, they would definitely have been able to suppress Lin Tian. However, they had forcefully brought Wu Yi here at that time, directly changing the situation. Lin Tian, whose battle prowess had begun to weaken, had suddenly become stronger again. Moreover, he had become so strong that it shocked them. Now, he had firmly suppressed them again, and even easily destroyed the killing array and the dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams here. Clang! The clanging sound of the sword shook the illusory flame star ocean. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. After destroying dozens of spirit-devouring diagrams and the killing formation here, he moved again. The seven-colored divine sword in his hand casually slashed out. In an instant, a large number of sharp sword lights slashed toward the dozens of people. This sword light was much sharper than before. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the 41 72-winged powerhouses. The 41 people trembled violently. They immediately used all their strength to support the defense of the divine chains of order. However, it was useless. With 500 times of battle strength, this casual slash shattered all the divine chains of order that were supported by the dozens of people. Then, the sword light continued to press down. Pooh! 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 The 41 people were all smashed into pieces. However, these people were ultimately supreme masters of the universe. Although their bodies were smashed, their godly souls were not annihilated by this slash. They used their godly souls to wrap up the pieces of flesh and blood and quickly retreated. In the blink of an eye, they reformed their bodies. With a whoosh, someone rushed directly toward Godly Key and the blue-robed man. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the scene. He quickly formed a seal with one hand, causing the divine array that trapped Godly Key and the blue-robed man to vibrate immediately. It emitted an extremely terrifying aura of destruction. He stared coldly at Lin Tian. Reincarnation body, surrender! Otherwise, I'll immediately end the two of them. Wang! The void trembled, directly interrupting this person's words. Lin Tian's gaze swept over, cold and piercing. In an instant, a crack of fate opened up behind this person. This crack had a diameter of around 3 meters, directly sweeping this person within. No! A horrifying scream came from within. The next moment, the crack of fate disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Lin Tian took a step forward and appeared above the broken star. His eyes moved slightly, and the power of fate intertwined with each other. It caused the divine array that trapped Godly Key and the blue-robed man to disintegrate instantly. It's fine now, he said to Godly Key and the blue-robed man. Now, he had opened his eye of destiny. With 500 times of battle strength, it was naturally easy for him to break this divine array. Thank you? Thank you, Lin Tian! The two of them were full of gratitude. Then they looked toward Wu Yi. After looking over, they could not help but avert their eyes. Lin Tian knew that the two of them felt guilty toward Wu Yi, so they did not dare to look directly at Wu Yi. He said, It's fine. She won't blame, rumble. Suddenly, the illusory flame starry sea shook violently, interrupting his words. Colored glaze Emperor Furnace, appear! 41 experts with 72 wings had gathered together at some point in time. Their eyes were filled with raging flames of fury. At this moment, they formed the same hand seals and instantly opened up a huge spatial rift. Within it, holy light surged. Immediately after, a treasured furnace appeared. Immortal fire surged within it. It was at least 9 feet tall, and as soon as it appeared, it emitted an extremely terrifying aura, as if it could burn everything in the world. Chapter 2266. Lin Tian's eyes lit up when he saw the brilliant glaze cauldron. This cauldron was extraordinary, extremely extraordinary. The divine key's color changed. Clan treasure! She was once the strongest expert of the Heaven Protector clan, so she naturally recognized this zone glaze Emperor Furnace. It was the Heaven Protector clan's signature treasure, and it had always been enshrined in the clan's sacred mountain. It required at least 30 of the clan's 72 winged experts to activate it, and it possessed terrifying power. At the same time, Old Gangster, Primitive Emperor, Old Taoist, Martial Ancestor, and the others were all shocked. This furnace. Old Taoist's pupils shrank as he was shocked by the aura of the furnace. Feng Xingtianzuan, Ao Jiantianzuan, Little Taichu, and White Tiger were also shocked. The furnace summoned by the 41 72-winged experts was too amazing. Just looking at it made their souls tremble. Boom! The sacred aura rolled and was extremely shocking. The 90-foot-tall azure-glazed Emperor Furnace was controlled by the 41 72-winged experts. It was like a blue sky hanging here. A horrifying sense of oppression spread out in this place, causing the air to sizzle. Since this is the plan, none of you will be able to escape today. Today, all of you will die here, one of the 72-winged experts said coldly. Suppress him first. Take him down, another person said. At that moment, the 41 people stared at Lin Tian and activated the azure glaze Emperor Furnace together. The Emperor Furnace vibrated and directly pressed towards Lin Tian. Boom! As the 90-foot Emperor Furnace passed by, the cosmic space here collapsed and was annihilated. Tornadoes raged on without restraint. Lin Tian stood on the ruined star, the black hair in front of his forehead fluttering in the wind. He could feel the astonishing power of this precious furnace, far from what the spirit-devouring diagram could compare to. However, his expression didn't change at all, not feeling the slightest bit of fear. He raised his hand and raised the divine sword in his hand. He activated the reincarnation sword art, and welcomed the azure glaze emperor furnace. With a clang, a sword aura shot out and collided with the azure glaze emperor furnace in the blink of an eye. Rumble! In the surroundings, the cosmic space immediately collapsed. The sword astral was shattered and the glazed emperor cauldron trembled violently. It was knocked back several hundred feet by this sword. He blocked it. Such a scene caused Old Hooligan and the others to be shocked. That terrifying glazed emperor furnace was actually blasted away by Lin Tianyi's sword by dozens of feet. Especially Shin Qi, whose eyes were filled with shock. As the former strongest expert of the Heaven Protector clan, she knew very well how terrifying the Imperial Cauldron was. It truly had the power to suppress everything. Although the Imperial Cauldron hadn't displayed its true power at the moment, its simple pressure was already very frightening. However, Lin Tian had actually slashed the Imperial Cauldron dozens of feet away with a single slash of his sword. This shocked her. Only now did she realize that Lin Tian's combat strength was much stronger than she had imagined. The 41 experts with 72 wings also narrowed their eyes. Then, their eyes turned cold as they urged the Emperor Cauldrons to press down again. Buzz! In the illusory flame-starry sea, the space was distorted. Rays of cosmic origin light surged from all directions and poured into the Emperor Cauldron. The glazed Emperor Cauldron was born from heaven and earth. Later, generations of experts of my clan sacrificed their blood essence and souls to refine it. It doesn't need to consume our saint power. We only need to activate it with our will. It can automatically absorb the power of heaven and earth and transform it into an unparalleled destructive force. In front of the Emperor Cauldron, lay down obediently. One of them stared at Lin Tian and said coldly. With a rumble, the glazed Emperor Cauldron trembled. The power it emitted suddenly became stronger, and the cauldron burst out with light. I'll help you break it, Lin Tianling said fearlessly. He faced it head-on and slashed down with the 7-colored divine sword in his hand. The sword radiance was vast and mighty. Outside the Xianhuan universe, in a fantastical large world, there were many divine mountains. It was just like the sacred world. In the center of the large world, there were many splendid palaces. At this moment, in one of the palaces, an old man in a blood-red robe suddenly opened his eyes. He had 72 black wings on his back. The black wings were intertwined with dense ancient runes and divine seals. His eyes vaguely had the sun, moon, and stars revolving around him. The energy he emitted was so strong that it seemed to be able to crush everything. In the next moment, this person stood up. He did not seem to have done anything, but he disappeared from the palace and appeared in an ancient mountain in the deepest part of the palace. There were 30 other 72-winged elders in the mountain. Seeing the blood-robed old man appear, the 30 72-winged old men in the ancient mountain were all shocked. Great ancestor, you've already... These people looked at the blood-robed old man. Their gazes landed on the 72-winged old man's back. Looking at the ancient runes and divine seals on the 72-winged old man's wings, their eyes couldn't help but twitch with shock, excitement, and excitement. The life essence of the previous great calamity plus the life essence collected in this great calamity, it's time to make a breakthrough, the blood-robed old man said. He looked into the depths of the ancient mountain and said, The glazed emperor furnace has been summoned? Shinin and the others set up a trap. They used the divine key as bait to lure the reincarnated bodies over. They lured the disciples of the human king, the descendants of the immortal spirit royal family, and the martial ancestor. I don't know how they are now. The glazed emperor furnace has been summoned over by them. One of the 30 people replied. They summoned the glazed emperor furnace. Their condition won't be good. The blood-robed old man's eyes were deep. He paused and said, Just as well. I've been in seclusion for countless years. Now that I've made a breakthrough, I'll go out for a walk. Do you all want to go together? Yes, the 30 people said. The blood-robed old man nodded and said, Then let's go. As his words fell, the group disappeared in an instant. Xianhuan Universe, Illusory Flame Starry Sea, clang! Lin Tian waved the rainbow divine sword. The sword whistled fiercely as it faced the glazed emperor furnace controlled by the 4172 winged experts. It slashed apart the universe space. With a bang, the glazed emperor furnace was sent flying by him. It smashed through hundreds of large stars before it stopped. Not much. His voice was indifferent. The 4172 winged expert's eyes were cold. And don't be too proud. The true power of the glazed emperor furnace has yet to be unleashed. Worship the holy fire of the emperor furnace. One of them said coldly. The 41 people worked together and activated the glazed emperor furnace with their minds. With a rumble, the glazed emperor furnace suddenly shook. The furnace lid opened by itself. Inside, surging flames surged out. As if they had their own consciousness, they pressed down on Lin Tian like monstrous waves. Lin Tian's expression didn't change. His eye of destiny trembled slightly. A crack of fate appeared and instantly sucked in all the holy fire. You! The 4172 winged expert's eyelids twitched. The holy fire in the glazed emperor furnace could burn everything. However, it was useless now. Before it could even get close to Lin Tian had opened a crack of fate with his eye of destiny and swallowed it whole. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. The divine sword in his hand trembled, and a large sword radiance slashed towards the 41 people. Then, he took a step forward and forced his way towards the group. Chapter 2267. Behind the 41 experts with 72 wings of the Heaven Protectors, a spatial door suddenly opened. 31 people walked out, all with 72 wings on their backs. The leader was an elder in a blood-red robe, and there seemed to be the sun and the moon revolving in his eyes. Lin Tian focused his gaze on the elder in the blood-red robe. This person made him feel threatened. Grand Ancestor. Qin recognized this person. After he spoke, his expression changed slightly. He saw the 72 black wings behind the elder in the blood-red robe. There were many divine inscriptions on them. That was a sign of a great breakthrough. No one in their clan had ever reached that height. At the same time, the martial ancestor, old gangster, and the others were also shocked. They all felt how terrifying the elder in the blood-red robe was. Even though he also had 72 wings on his back like the other elders, his aura was obviously much stronger. Grand Ancestor, you've come out of seclusion. The 41 experts with 72 wings naturally felt that their clan's Grand Ancestor and the other 30 elders had come here. They all turned around, and their expressions suddenly changed. They were both shocked and surprised. They looked straight at the elder in the blood-red robe and said, Grand Ancestor, you've broken through? The elder in the blood-red robe nodded and looked across. His gaze fell on Qin and the man in the green robe. His gaze was cold, and then it fell on Lin Tian. His eyes deepened. The reincarnation body and the Eye of Destiny have really appeared at the same time. Before he came here, he had already heard about Lin Tian from the other 30 experts with 72 wings. At this moment, he looked at Lin Tian. A faint pressure intertwined from his body, and it instantly shook the surroundings. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly. This pressure was too terrifying. The other experts with 72 wings of this clan couldn't compare at all. Facing this pressure, he felt a chill run down his spine, and his divine soul couldn't help but tremble. At the same time, Qin, the man in the green robe, and the martial ancestor's expressions changed drastically. The white tiger couldn't stop trembling. This was the first time he had felt such a terrifying pressure since he started cultivating. Little Taichu couldn't help but tremble slightly. Even though he was far away, he felt extremely uncomfortable from the pressure. The blood-robed elder placed his hands behind his back and looked at Lin Tian coldly. It was as if he was the king of the world. He took a step forward and said, You have both the reincarnation constitution and the Eye of Destiny. You are very bold. It's very interesting. Grand Ancestor, wait! One of the 72 winged experts in the illusory flame starry sea saw that Patriarch Shui Pao was about to make a move. Gritting his teeth, he said, Grand Ancestor, please hand him over to us. 9 of our people were killed by him. If we can't take him down with our own hands, we will never be able to face our dead kin. Another one of the 41 said, Grand Ancestor, please deal with that woman. This person pointed at the nearby Wu Yi and said, She is the descendant of the divine key and that human from back then, the Tao companion of the reincarnated body. She is extremely powerful. The reason why the reincarnation body hadn't been suppressed yet was because of her flute music. The person beside her is the descendant of the divine key and the reincarnation body. The blood-red-robed old man stopped moving. His deep and indifferent gaze moved away from Lin Tian and landed on Wu Yi in the distance. At the same time, the other 72 winged experts who came with this person also looked at Wu Yi. Then, their eyes narrowed. One of the golden-haired elders glanced at the divine key on the broken star and said coldly, Same appearance, similar aura. She is indeed her descendant. These 30 people already knew about Wu Yi. Now that they saw it with their own eyes and saw that Wu Yi's appearance was exactly the same as the divine key, they couldn't help but reveal strange expressions. The reincarnation calamity crossing song floated in the illusory flame starry sea. The flute music was gentle and soft, but it shook slightly at this moment. Wu Yi's expression was still calm, but there were ripples in her eyes. She looked at the divine key and the man in green on the broken star. She was very powerful and intelligent. At this moment, from the words of the elders of the Heaven Protectors, she instantly knew that the divine key they were talking about was the person who looked exactly like her on the broken star. The human from back then was the man in green, so the descendant was obviously her. Originally, when she first appeared here and saw the two of them, she had sensed many things and guessed many things. However, when she heard the words of the elders of the 72 wings at this moment, she still could not help but feel emotional fluctuations. They are. Wu Xian naturally understood a lot. She pulled Wu Yi's clothes and looked at the divine key and the man in green on the broken star. Her beautiful eyes widened. Interesting, said the blood-robed elder indifferently. His eyes were fixed on Wu Yi. He said to the 72 winged elders who were controlling the glazed emperor furnace, Since we are here to avenge our dead clansmen, the reincarnated body will be suppressed by you. With a buzzing sound, a saint light surged behind him. It was shockingly condensed and swept towards Wu Yi. The descendant of the disgrace from back then is also the shame of our clan. Since I am here, I will personally kill her, said the elder coldly. The saint light intertwined and pressed down on Wu Yi in the blink of an eye. The majestic aura was vast and mighty, as if it could annihilate everything. Lin Tian's expression changed. He could feel the terror of the saint light. Although he knew that Wu Yi must be very powerful now, he still moved immediately. The rainbow divine sword in his hand vibrated. He was ready to use the rainbow divine sword and the eye of destiny to block the saint light. However, he paused in the next moment. In the end, he didn't use the rainbow divine sword or the power of fate. There, the void in front of Wu Yi moved slightly. He couldn't feel any powerful aura, but it directly annihilated the saint light of the blood-robed elder. It disappeared without a trace in an instant. The blood-robed elder squinted his eyes. Although it is just a trace of my saint power, ordinary supreme masters can't withstand it. You are not weak. As he finished speaking, he really moved. This time, he raised his hand. The saint light intertwined, dazzling and blazing, and thick rays of Tao surrounded him. They turned into a huge hand of light and grabbed at Wu Yi. In the blink of an eye, it was only a few feet away from Wu Yi. Buzzing! The space moved slightly, and a ripple appeared. With a buzzing sound, the rays of Saint Light were instantly annihilated. The huge hand that was pressing down was forcefully pushed away. At this place, the other 72 winged great beings of the Heaven Protector clan were all shocked. Their clan's great ancestor had made a great breakthrough. The divine patterns of Tao intertwined on his 72 winged wings had reached an extremely terrifying level. In the history of the Heaven Protector clan, no one had ever reached this level. But now, the great ancestor who had broken through to this level had attacked twice, but he was blocked by Wu Yi. At the same time, Lin Tian was also shocked. Wu Yi! Chapter 2268. Standing on the broken star and looking at Wu Yi in a white dress in the distance, Lin Tian's eyes could not help but emit wisps of light. At the same time, Shin Qi was also shocked. She was a member of the Heaven Protector clan, so she knew very well what the divine inscriptions on the 72 wings represented. It was a whole new level. The blood-robed old man was at least 10,000 times stronger than her at her peak, but Wu Yi had easily blocked both of his attacks. Although Wu Yi had only casually attacked both times and had not used his full strength, she was still shocked. The blood-robed old man looked at Wu Yi, and his expression became much more indifferent. Both times he attacked, he appeared to be very casual. However, the second time, he used 10% of his strength. This 10% of his strength was actually blocked. This caused him to reveal a somewhat surprised expression, and his eyes involuntarily narrowed slightly. Now that he had used 10% of his battle prowess, even the divine key from back then would not have been able to block the great hand of light. Not bad! Not bad at all! Not bad at all! As he looked at Wu Yi, his eyes became even deeper and colder. A tyrannical pressure immediately seeped out of his body and swept up waves of violent hurricanes in this place. Give up on your identity as a disgrace to our tribe. With your strength, you have the right to die in my hands. The illusory flame starry sea rumbled. Divine chains of order appeared around the old man's body, and they turned into a cauldron of order. It had 3 legs and 2 handles, and it seemed to have been born from the Tao. Its destructive aura was terrifying to the extreme, and it caused the large stars around the illusory flame starry sea to be shattered into pieces by its aura, causing debris to fly everywhere. The martial ancestor and the others trembled when they saw this. The aura was too terrifying, and it made their souls tremble. Even Lin Tian, who had opened his eye of destiny and had multiplied his battle prowess by 500 times, could not help but change his expression at this moment. This is an attack I have unleashed with my full power. Even if you die, you should feel honored to be struck by it, the blood-robed old man said coldly. With that, the cauldron of order moved. It pressed down on Wu Yi mightily, directly suppressing everything. Ancestor, stop! Please show mercy! On the ruined star, the divine key couldn't help but cry out. This order cauldron was too terrifying, making her feel fear. He was afraid that Wu Yi wouldn't be able to withstand it. She and the green-robed man wanted to rush towards Wu Yi. However, the space around them was completely sealed by the cauldron of order. They couldn't rush over at all. Even with the power of fate and the rainbow divine sword, Lin Tian couldn't break through this seal. Grand Ancestor, I beg you, please stop! The divine key cried out loudly. This strike was too terrifying. The blood-robed old man's eyes were cold. You traitor, it will be your turn after I deal with her. Wait and see! The cauldron of order sealed off all directions, and its might was terrifying to the extreme. Everywhere it passed, the universe returned to its original state. Mother! Ruoxing was shocked. She trembled and pulled on Wu Yi's sleeve even tighter. Hurricanes wreaked havoc. The order cauldron mixed with a boundless aura of destruction, almost swallowing all the light here. The snow-white skirt fluttered, but it wasn't obvious. The sound of the flute was still ringing, without the slightest change. Wu Yi's expression was still that calm, still standing in place without moving. Only the voice of the divine sense floated out, interweaving with the gentle sound of the flute. In the heavens above and on the earth below, only I reign supreme. Hong! A world-dominating pressure immediately appeared. The huge illusory flame starry sea shook violently, as if it was going to collapse in the next moment. A world-destroying aura spread out with her as the starting point. With a chi, sound, the order cauldron shattered in an instant. The aura of extermination continued to spread out, steadily landing on the blood-robed old man's body. Wisps of blood splashed out along with it. No, but... The blood-robed old man was stunned. In the next moment, his body collapsed, turning into a bloody mist. Even his divine sense was annihilated. Grand Ancestor! At this place, the 72 winged experts of the Heaven Protector clan were all horrified. Their clan's Grand Ancestor had been in seclusion for countless years, making a great breakthrough with endless life essence, reaching a height that their clan had never reached before. Now, he died just like that. He was killed. Shinki and the green-robed man were stunned. Their anxious and worried expressions disappeared in an instant. Beside them, Lin Tian was also stunned. On the other side, Martial Ancestor, Primitive Emperor, and the others couldn't help but tremble. Domineering. So domineering that it's scary. Old Gangster's hair stood on end. The aura that emerged from Wu Yi's body made all of them tremble in fear. That terrifying blood-robed old man was killed just like that. The melodious flute music floated in the illusory flame-starry sea. Wu Yi was still calm. That world-dominating aura receded like the tide, disappearing without a trace in the blink of an eye. No! Impossible! Impossible! Grand Ancestor! How could this be? It can't be! It can't be! At this place, the dozens of 72 winged experts of the Heaven Protector clan were on the verge of going crazy. No one was willing to believe the scene in front of them. Their Grand Ancestor had made a great breakthrough after countless years of seclusion. How could he be killed just like that? On the broken star, Lin Tianwei was stunned for a moment before regaining his senses. You're indeed my wife! After the initial shock, he couldn't help but laugh out loud and burst out with these words. The seven-colored divine sword in his hand shook, and the seven-colored sword force that filled the sky directly enveloped the 41 72-winged experts and the 30 72-winged experts that had followed the blood-robed old man into this illusory flame-star ocean. The sword force was incomparably sharp. Coupled with the fact that the blood-robed old man was killed, none of the experts could block the sword force. All of them were penetrated by the sword force. Blood splattered everywhere. Human! Kill! The eyes of these people turned red when they saw the death of a powerful Grand Ancestor. They were on the verge of going crazy as they pounced on Lin Tianwei like a herd of beasts. Lin Tianling smiled. The seven-colored divine sword trembled, and he activated the reincarnation sword technique. He directly slashed the body of the person who was charging at the front. Then, he activated the power of providence with his eye of destiny and crushed this person's divine soul into pieces. Buzz. The reincarnation portrait rushed out from behind him and was activated with 500 times the combat power. It was mixed with holiness, vastness, and suppression. It enveloped another 3 72-winged experts under it. It was like the world annihilation portrait was pressing down, and blood splattered everywhere. The 3 72-winged experts couldn't resist the reincarnation portrait of the king's territory that was activated with 500 times the combat power. They were instantly crushed, and only their divine souls weren't crushed. However, at this moment, they were full of cracks. After that, he glanced at them. The eye of destiny trembled slightly, and a large amount of the power of providence pressed down majestically. Poof! 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 3 soft sounds were heard, and the 3 divine souls that were full of cracks were crushed. Damn it! Damn it! Sacrificial Emperor Furnace. Kill! Kill! Chapter 2269. The glazed arch cauldron was covered in Tao patterns, and its aura was shocking. As it pressed down on Lin Tian, endless holy fire surged out. Kill! 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 Ferocious roars reverberated throughout the illusory flame-starry sea. 67 powerful beings with 72 wings started to activate the cauldron together. Everyone's intents fused together, causing the cauldron to explode with power that was much stronger than before. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. His eye of destiny trembled slightly, and a large amount of fate energy surged out and faced the cauldron. With his 500-fold combat power, he activated his eye of destiny. The power of fate energy was extremely dense. Although the glazed arch cauldron was very powerful, it couldn't resist such dense fate energy at this moment. The holy fire that surged out was instantly extinguished. At the same time, he stepped forward and arrived in front of the 67 people in the blink of an eye. He held the rainbow divine sword and swung it horizontally. With a clang, accompanied by a sharp sword hum, a sword light swept out and sent all 67 people flying. Blood splattered in the sky, and the glazed arch cauldron was also sent flying. It crashed into a huge star in the distance and shattered it. These 72 winged beings are no match for him now. Even with their clan's ultimate treasure, they don't have any advantage. The difference is too big. From afar, the old gangster said. The old Taoist nodded and looked at Wu Yi in the distance. In terms of cultivation potential, the girl is much stronger. In terms of future potential, that rascal is much stronger. Also, their daughter once fought in the Heaven of Void world. She controlled time and order at such a young age. He sighed. They are a family of monsters. Crazy. The sound of the flute drifted in the illusory flamed starry sea. Wu Yi used Thousand Snow to play the Reincarnation Tribulation Transcendence song. She was like a fairy from another world. Outside Lin Tian's body, holy light shone brightly. With the Reincarnation Tribulation Transcendence song, Reincarnation Forging Spiritual Art, and Reincarnation Heart Sutra, his combat power was multiplied by 500-fold. Also, because Wu Yi had killed the most powerful ancestor of the Heaven Protectors, Lin Tian was filled with emotions. His aura also became stronger. After sending the 67 72-winged powerful beings flying, he charged forward once again. He didn't use any fancy moves. He raised his hand and unleashed the fist of reincarnation with his 500-fold combat power and his eye of destiny. With a boom, the universe trembled. This punch landed on one of the 72-winged cultivators, shattering him into pieces. Then, the power of destiny appeared as his gaze moved, drowning this person's spirit. With a poof, there was no scream. This person's divine soul was directly crushed into pieces by the surging power of destiny. This kid seems to be even more ferocious than before, the white tiger said. The other 66 experts with 72 wings were sent flying. At this time, they stabilized their bodies and couldn't help but roar. With a rumble, the glazed Emperor Cauldron that had been sent flying was summoned back by them. Holy flames poured out of the cauldron once again. At this moment, following the fury of the 66 individuals, this holy flame became even more terrifying, as if it could burn through everything. Lin Tian raised his hand and directly threw out a punch. Carrying the power of destiny, he forcefully obliterated this holy flame. Then, he waved the 7-colored divine sword and cut another 72-winged expert into pieces. He used the reincarnation diagram of the king's territory and the power of providence to cover this person's soul. With a whoosh, he was crushed, and his body and soul were destroyed. At the same time, a swift and fierce sword aura swept out, sending the other 65 people flying with a series of bangs. Blood splattered in this part of the universe. The 65 people's eyes were filled with anger as they stabilized themselves in the distance. This time, the 65 of them didn't pounce on Lin Tian. They were sent flying again and were severely injured. At this moment, they came to their senses. Go! Go! Someone gritted his teeth and said. After calming down from extreme anger, these people knew that they weren't Lin Tian's match at this moment, even with the glazed Emperor Cauldron. Lin Tian, who had the Eye of Destiny, was too powerful, and they couldn't stop him at all. Moreover, on the other side, there was Wu Yi, who had killed the most powerful ancestor of their race. They were even less likely to be his match. If they continued to fight, they would all be killed there. Their plan this time had failed. They had completely failed. They had suffered heavy losses. Go! This person said again. The other dozens of 72 winged cultivators were extremely pale, but they knew the current situation very well. They immediately mobilized the glazed Emperor Cauldron and retreated. Dozens of people worked together and used the glazed Emperor Cauldron to tear open a space door. "You want to leave? Don't even think about it," Lin Tianling said. His eye of destiny moved, and destiny surged and turned into a vortex of destiny. It directly destroyed the space door that the glazed Emperor Cauldron had torn open. The dozens of 72 winged cultivators were enraged, and the killing intent in their eyes became even more violent. They were full of murderous intent. "You clang!" the sword chimed. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He waved the rainbow holy sword and used it to activate the reincarnation sword art. Together with his eye of destiny, every ray of reincarnation sword radiance was added with the power of destiny. The dozens of 72 winged cultivators used the glazed Emperor Cauldron to resist. The Emperor Cauldron absorbed the cosmic origin energy from all directions, and the sacred fire within it surged and almost burned the illusory flame starry sea clean. This power was very strong, but in front of Lin Tian's reincarnation sword radiance, it was very weak. With a swoosh, the colored glazed sacred flame was once again extinguished. At the same time, the reincarnation sword radiance, which was added with the power of destiny, continued to press down on the dozens of people. The dozens of people roared and used the glazed Emperor Cauldron to resist. With a clang, the glazed Emperor Cauldron was sent flying. However, the reincarnation sword radiance, which was added with the power of destiny, was also destroyed. A radiance flashed past Lin Tian's eyes. This glazed Emperor Cauldron was indeed extraordinary. Although the reincarnation sword radiance, which was added with the power of destiny, was sent flying, his sword radiance was also destroyed. Furthermore, there was not a single mark on the glazed Emperor Cauldron. This was enough to show that this glazed Emperor Cauldron was not simple. It was indeed an important treasure. Then, he raised his hand and used his eye of destiny to execute the weapon-controlling art. He forcefully grabbed the glazed Emperor Cauldron. "You're courting death!" The dozens of 72 winged cultivators could naturally tell that Lin Tian wanted to snatch the glazed Emperor Cauldron. They were all even more furious. At the same time, they raised their divine order chains and pressed down on Lin Tian. At the same time, they activated the glazed Emperor Cauldron with all their might, causing it to explode with an even more shocking sacred light to resist Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. In his eyes, the 9 black moons started to revolve at this moment, pulling open a huge Providence waterfall. One could faintly hear the roar of the Providence waterfall as it pressed down on the dozens of 72 winged cultivators. With a loud boom, the divine order chains of the dozens of people were all crushed. The Providence waterfall surged and sent the dozens of people flying. At the same time, he extended his hand and landed on the glazed Emperor Cauldron. He grabbed the glazed Emperor Cauldron and pulled it back to him. Boom! Chapter 2270. Looking at the holy flames and runes in the sky, Lin Tian's expression remained the same. After years of refinement, an artifact soul has been born? Looking at the holy flames and runes in the sky, his eyes were cold. His eye of destiny moved, and the power of providence swept across, annihilating all the holy flames and runes in the sky. Then, he used the power of providence to enter the glazed Emperor Cauldron, refining the artifact soul within. The glazed Emperor Cauldron vibrated on its own, and the runes on it shone brightly. "Let go!" The other 1772 winged elites roared and rushed over crazily. All kinds of skills and techniques were thrown at Lin Tian. Lin Tian raised his hand and used the Rainbow Divine Sword to activate the Reincarnation Sword art. He swung his sword away. With a clang, the sound of the sword reverberated. In an instant, the 1772 winged elites were all sent flying, and their blood splattered in the void. At this moment, the glazed Emperor Cauldron quieted down. The artifact soul within was erased by Lin Tian, and he grabbed it. "Not bad," he said. With a thought, the glazed Emperor Cauldron shrunk into an inch and kept it in his body. This Emperor Cauldron was very shocking. It was a supreme treasure. He snatched that clan's supreme treasure just like that. Really? In the distance, the old hooligan widened his eyes. The primitive emperor, the old hooligan, and the others were also shocked. Lin Tian's combat strength was really terrifying at this moment. Destroy them! The White Tiger roared. This clan had set up a trap here to lure Lin Tian here and forcefully capture Wui. Now that they had ended up like this, it made the White Tiger feel very relieved. Again! The 1772 winged elites roared. Seeing that the glazed Emperor Pagoda was snatched away by Lin Tian, they all rushed towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. His eye of destiny shook, and the power of providence surged, enveloping all of them. Bam! 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 In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were sent flying, and all of them coughed up blood. At the same time, sharp sword whistles reverberated. Lin Tian attacked again. He used the 9 swords of reincarnation with the rainbow swords and the power of destiny, directly obliterating 3 of the 72 winged experts. Afterwards, he used the Eye of Destiny to open up a vortex of destiny, sucking in the 3 fragments of their bodies and souls. He used the power of destiny to crush them. At this point, he was becoming more and more familiar with his control of the Eye of Destiny. The burden on his body was no longer as severe as it had been in the past. It was no longer like before, when he couldn't last for more than a few hours. He looked at the remaining 63-72 winged elites, and did not say anything. He raised his divine sword and charged forward. The dozens of 72 winged strong practitioners were naturally enraged. Another 3 72 winged elders had died at the hands of Lin Tian. They steadied themselves and their killing intent overflowed into the sky as they surged towards Lin Tian. You guys are having fun. Suddenly, an indifferent voice rang out. A figure suddenly appeared in the sky above the illusory flame-starry sea. It was a man who looked a little evil. There was a circle of strange black ancient runes on his forehead, and he had a head of eerie blue hair. He was just standing there, but the entire illusory flame-starry sea seemed to be trembling because of him. Lord Xianning! The dozens of 72 winged strong practitioners of the Heaven Protectors all stopped. They looked at the man in blue, and their expressions changed. At the same time, Shinki, the man in green, the martial ancestor, the old ruffian, and the old priest all trembled when they saw this man. Their expressions changed drastically. At this moment, just by looking at this evil man, they seemed to be able to see the scene of their own deaths. Even someone as powerful and calm as Wu Yi's eyes narrowed. There was an obvious fluctuation in his gaze. The cleansing of the Xianhuan universe has slowed down compared to before. Lord Xianming stood in the sky and looked down at the dozens of 72 winged strong practitioners of the Heaven Protectors. The dozens of experts with 72 wings trembled slightly as they bowed on the spot. Please forgive us, my lord. One of them pointed at Lin Tian and said, Lord Xianming, this human has meddled with reincarnation. He's a reincarnated body and has the Eye of Destiny. He can control the destiny of the world. We're currently suppressing him and preparing to submit him to our superiors. That's why we wasted the cleansing time. Now we... Oh? Lord Xianming interrupted him. His eyes fell on Lin Tian and on Lin Tian's eyes. It's really a reincarnated body and the Eye of Destiny. A mere human is very bold. Lin Tian naturally looked at Lord Xianming the moment he appeared. He was frightened by the other's terrifying aura. At this time, when he met the other's gaze, he couldn't help but tremble and feel intense pain all over his body. This person was too terrifying. Compared to this person, the great ancestor of the Heaven Protectors was like an ant compared to an elephant. Just the other's gaze made him feel like he was about to be annihilated. At the same time, he didn't know why, but he felt that this person was very familiar. He seemed to have seen him before. Buzz! In his hand, the rainbow godly sword vibrated on its own. It emitted a blinding light as if it had a spirit. Because of the vibration, he couldn't help but feel a sharp pain in his head. It was as if billions of killing swords were slashing his brain. Many blurry, bloody images suddenly appeared, making his head hurt even more. His consciousness was being violently torn apart. He looked at Lord Xianming. His consciousness was getting more and more painful. Gradually, his vision became blurry. In his mind, the bloody images kept overlapping. A shadow was exploding and blood splashed in the void. A few figures were leaving and disappearing into the horizon. His pupils gradually dilated. Gradually, a murderous aura emerged and became thicker. "It's you!" The murderous roar resounded through the illusory flame-starry sea. His body suddenly erupted with a monstrous demonic aura. At this moment, his eyes turned blood-red. As if he had gone mad, he held the rainbow godly sword and rushed toward Lord Xianming in the sky. Such a scene made Shinqi, the man in green, the martial ancestor, the primitive emperor, and the old gangster all turn pale. "He's possessed! What's going on?" The old Taoist was shocked. "Kid! Lin Tian!" The white tiger and the little Taichu couldn't help but shout. They didn't understand this sudden change at all. "Dad!" The Ruoxian was also shocked. She shouted. Wu Yi moved. At this moment, she stepped out. Space holy radiance intertwined. Circles of Tao light rolled toward Lin Tian. She didn't know why Lin Tian suddenly possessed, but she knew that Lord Xianming was very terrifying. It was very dangerous for Lin Tian to rush up. "Back off!" An indifferent voice sounded. Lord Xianming spoke. The entire illusory flame-starry sea trembled. Wu Yi was forced back and the space Tao light was annihilated. His gaze fell on Lin Tian, who was rushing over with the rainbow godly sword. "You seem to hate me instinctively. Do you know me?" Chapter 2271. Demonic Aura and Providence Intertwined. In the blink of an eye, Lin Tian charged toward Xianming with the seven-colored divine sword and slashed down. The sword was extremely terrifying and seemed to be able to cut through everything. However, when the sword landed in front of Xianming, Lin Tian was sent flying with a bang and shattered into pieces in the distance. Blood splattered in the void. It was a ghastly sight. The martial ancestor and the others were shocked. It was clearly Lin Tian who was attacking Xianming, but Lin Tian was the one who was injured. "What's going on? What's wrong with him? Lin Tian! Daddy!" The white tiger, little Taichu, and Ruoxian were shocked and anxious. Wu Yi had already stabilized herself. The reincarnation tribulation crossing song disappeared at this moment, and she took another step forward. An incomparably powerful pressure spread out from her body, causing the entire illusory flame-starry sea to tremble. Thousands of dats jumped out and submitted to her. Numerous divine chains of order appeared and covered the entire sky above the illusory flame-starry sea. Such an aura caused the martial ancestor and the others to tremble violently. Even their divine souls could not help but feel cold. The old hooligan's voice trembled. This pressure was too terrifying. It was dozens of times stronger than the pressure that had appeared when she had killed the grand ancestor of the heaven protectors. In the sky above the illusory flame-starry sea, Xianming narrowed his eyes slightly. He was surprised. "A human woman can reach such a height? Very good!" As he said this, a divine light flashed in his eyes. "However, it's nothing in front of me." As soon as he finished speaking, an invisible force suddenly appeared in the illusory flame-starry sea and forced Wu Yi to retreat. This time, Wu Yi retreated dozens of feet. Her beautiful face had lost some color and was much paler. "Mother!" Ruoxian flashed toward Wu Yi and quickly landed beside Wu Yi. Little Taichu's expression changed, and so did the white tiger. This was the first time they had seen someone who could force Wu Yi back, and even force Wu Yi back twice in a row. Moreover, this time, Wu Yi was clearly injured. Before this, they had never thought that one day, someone would be able to hurt Wu Yi. Shinkai and the green-clothed man were naturally very anxious. Seeing that Wu Yi was injured, they couldn't help but rush towards Wu Yi. How is this possible?" The expressions of the old hooligan and the others changed. They could clearly feel how terrifying the pressure that Wu Yi had just emitted was. It had made supreme masters of the universe like them tremble from the bottom of their souls. However, it had been easily defeated by that Xianming. They didn't even see Xianming attack. Just his aura alone was enough to push back the powerful Wu Yi. Lord Xianming is coming. Today, all of you will kneel here. The great beings of the Heaven Protector clan with 72 wings said coldly. Their eyes were filled with coldness at this time. Even Shimkei didn't know about Xianming's existence. Back then, Shimkei had risen too quickly. Before Shimkei had completely risen, they had only told Shimkei that they weren't the strongest in the Celestial Court and didn't have the highest status. They had also told Shimkei that after destroying all the universes, their clan would achieve super evolution. They hadn't mentioned anything about Xianming and the existence who had truly created the Celestial Court and supported the Celestial Court. When they had planned to tell Shimkei everything about the Celestial Court, Shimkei had betrayed his clan. Gulp! Gulp! The sound of flesh wriggling was heard. At this moment, Lin Tian had reformed his body. His eyes were blood-red, and the demonic aura on his body was even more shocking. He had almost completely forgotten himself. His black hair was dancing wildly at this moment. His blood-red eyes stared at Xianming. He roared like a wild beast. Without any hesitation, he attacked again. Wu Yi pushed Ruoxian away. Qian Shui drew a dazzling light and followed her. They attacked again, moving towards Lin Tian. At the same time, Wu Zhu and the others also moved. They didn't know why Lin Tian had suddenly turned into a demon, but they all knew that Lin Tian was in danger. They all rushed forward with Wu Yi. Boundless holy light appeared around their bodies. Back off, said Xianming indifferently. His voice was indifferent. The group of people was pushed back. Then, a powerful chi fell on them and restrained them. They couldn't move. Some of you are quite valuable. You can be used. Stay here. I'll deal with you later. As soon as he finished speaking, his gaze landed on Lin Tian with a trace of interest. You are subconsciously filled with hatred for this exalted. Why would a little ant like you feel hatred for this exalted? Looking at Lin Tian, he didn't care about Lin Tian's reincarnation constitution and eye of destiny. Lin Tian's eyes were red. He was like a wild beast. His face was full of hostility. There was only murderous intent and madness. In the blink of an eye, he rushed to Xianming and slashed down again. However, the result didn't change this time. With a poof, he was crushed by Xianming's qi. Father! In the distance, Ruoxian was restrained. She couldn't help but cry out. Bloody mist floated in the universe. Soon, Lin Tian reformed his body and rushed towards Xianming again. However, the result didn't change. Just like the previous 2 times, he was crushed by Xianming's qi for the 3rd time. An ant dares to cry to the heavens? The dozens of strong cultivators with 72 wings of the Heaven Protectors said coldly. They looked at Lin Tian as if he was a corpse. Blood splashed. Lin Tian's soul wasn't destroyed. He roared and reformed his body again. He rushed towards Xianming. However, the result was the same. He was crushed for the 4th time. However, Xianming didn't seem to know about this at all. He was only supported by his murderous intent and evil qi. He reformed his physical body and rushed towards Xianming again and again. Xianming was crushed again and again. Blood splashed in the air. Let me see how long you can last. Xianming didn't fight back. He put his hands behind his back and looked at Lin Tian indifferently. He watched as Lin Tian rushed towards him and exploded. It was as if he was watching a show. Lin Tian roared. Bloody mist gathered and he reformed his body. He didn't seem to feel any pain. He rushed towards Xianming again. Over and over again, he completely lost his mind. He forgot himself. His eyes became redder and his demon qi became thicker. He attacked Xianming crazily. However, he was crushed by Xianming's aura again and again. He was constantly injured. However, after his body was crushed dozens of times and he lost the support of the reincarnation calamity crossing song, his chi didn't weaken. Instead, it became stronger. Roar! Once again, he reformed his physical body. From within his body, the faint roars of gods and demons could be heard. An extremely vast pressure spread out, causing the entire illusory flame star sea to tremble violently. It seemed like it would collapse in the next moment. Xianming squinted his eyes. Interesting. Your cultivation is much lower than that human girl's. However, at this moment, your battle prowess has surpassed hers. Interesting. As he spoke, he truly made his move. A ring of faint holy radiance swept towards Lin Tian. That should be enough. This sovereign will take a look at what exactly exists in your instincts and subconscious. The moment the holy light appeared, it was extremely frightening. Before it landed in front of Lin Tian was instantly suppressed, unable to move at all. Only his roars continued. Father! Stop! Ruoxian panicked. Xinqi and the man in cyan couldn't help but shout. They were all extremely anxious. Wu Yi looked anxious for the first time. She clenched her teeth and tried to break free from Xianming's suppression. However, it was useless. Even someone as strong as her couldn't resist such an unparalleled power. She couldn't break free. Xianming stood in the sky. He looked indifferent as if he was the emperor of heaven and earth. I told you. Today, you will be suppressed. The several dozen elders of the Heaven Protector clan all had cold gazes. Xianming's holy light fell in front of Lin Tian. However, it was also at this moment that the sacred brilliance shattered with a puff. Chapter 2272. The handsome middle-aged man in a white robe appeared in front of Lin Tian as if he appeared out of thin air. White Tiger, Little Taichu, and the others were shocked. That drunkard! The drunkard is here! White Tiger couldn't help but speak. An old drunkard was Lin Tian's master. An old drunkard appeared at this critical moment. It was surprised and happy. Grand Master! Ruoxian also spoke. Although she was restrained, it was not a problem for her to speak. That kid's master, I've seen him once. He looks more. Wait. An old drunkard looked at an old drunkard, and his expression suddenly changed. His eyes widened. This aura, this Xinqi, martial ancestor, old Taoist, and primitive emperor all changed their expressions. Each of them looked as if they had seen a ghost. At the same time, Feng Xintianzuan and Ao Jiantianzuan couldn't help but tremble. Their lips couldn't help but tremble. Human, you can actually shake off my... Xianming's eyes were deep as his gaze fell on an old drunkard. His voice was cold. Then, in the next moment, his expression suddenly changed, and he couldn't help but take a step back. You! The dozens of 72 winged experts of the Heaven Protector clan were puzzled when they saw Xianming's expression. However, in the next moment, these people looked at an old drunkard and trembled violently. They all stepped back together, trembling. Human! Human King! One of them spoke. The previous cold expression when he looked at Lin Tian disappeared and was replaced by fear. White Tiger, Little Taichu, and Ruoxian's expressions changed again. Human! Human King? He isn't he Lin Tian's master? How? White Tiger's eyes were filled with shock. Grandmaster, is the Human King? Ruoxian's face was also filled with shock. Human King, this was not the first time they had heard of these two words. Whenever someone mentioned these two words, they would either reveal reverence or fear. This was because these two words represented invincibility. They were existences that countless experts in this world could only look up to in fear. They were existences that existed before the primordial age, and who knew how many years had passed since the current era. But now, the 72-winged powerhouse of the Heaven Protector clan actually called an old drunkard king. An old drunkard was from this era. He was Lin Tian's teacher. How could he be the Human King? However, even though they found it hard to believe, they also knew that the Heaven Protector clan's 72-winged expert wouldn't casually call out the words Human King when looking at someone. It was impossible for those people to mistake someone else. In an instant, they were all stunned. Even Wu Yi's gaze couldn't help but fluctuate at this time. No wonder you could say the Taoist name I used countless years ago. It's actually you. The old gangster looked at an old drunkard with his eyes wide open. But why did your appearance change? Is this reincarnation? Beside him, the old Taoist, primitive emperor, and other supreme experts of the universe were all shocked. Mas! Teacher! Feng Tianzuan and Ao Tianzuan looked at an old drunkard, and their voices trembled slightly. Although his appearance was different from before, the aura that an old drunkard emitted was unmistakable. It was the aura that belonged to their teacher. Little one, little six, you have suffered too. An old drunkard spoke with his back facing Feng Tianzuan and Ao Tianzuan. As soon as these words came out, the white tiger, little Tai Chu, and Ruo Xian's expressions changed again. If they still had a trace of doubt before, they didn't have any now. An old drunkard was the human king. The human king, an invincible existence before the primordial age, had actually been by their side all this time. Teacher! Feng Tianzuan and Ao Tianzuan were extremely excited. Then, their gazes quickly fell on Lin Tian, who was shrouded in pure holy light. The excitement in their eyes became even stronger, and their voices trembled. Little junior brother! Lin Tian, like their little junior brother, had cultivated all the techniques of the 9 of them. On the path of cultivation, he had been very cruel to himself, and worked very hard. They had once suspected that Lin Tian was the reincarnation of their little junior brother, but because they couldn't sense any familiar aura from him, they finally denied this conjecture. However, at this time, they no longer had any doubts. Although they still couldn't sense any familiar aura from Lin Tian, they were now certain that Lin Tian was the reincarnation of their little junior brother. Boom! Pure holy light enveloped Lin Tian. His eyes were crimson, full of hostility and murderous intent. He roared like a wild beast and stared at Xianming through the holy light barrier. He wanted to rush over crazily, but he couldn't break free from the holy light barrier around his body. The holy light barrier was cast by an old drunkard. An old drunkard raised his hand and reached into the holy light barrier, landing on Lin Tian's head. The surging demonic aura and the power of providence gradually dissipated, and the crimson-red eyes gradually returned to normal. Lin Tian no longer roared, and his grip on the divine sword loosened. He fainted within the holy light screen. An old drunkard's eyes were gentle like a loving father. He looked away from Lin Tian and at Xianming and the others. My disciple is easy to bully? Do you feel a sense of accomplishment from bullying him? Looking at Xianming and the others, his expression was no longer gentle. He was calm and indifferent. Xianming trembled, and so did the Heaven Protector race's experts with 72 wings. They wanted to escape, but their bodies couldn't move at all. You! What do you want? Xianming trembled. His previous coldness and prestige disappeared without a trace. The fear in his eyes couldn't be concealed. He looked at the fainted Lin Tian and said in a trembling voice, I know. He is your little disciple. He hates us. He hates that Lord. He wants to kill us and take revenge. This is his long-cherished wish. So you can't kill me. He looked at the other experts and said, You can kill them, but you can't kill me. If you kill me, you will destroy his long-cherished wish. All those years. You didn't do anything because of this, right? You can't kill me. Little Tai Chu, White Tiger, Ruo Xian, and the others were stunned. They stared at Lin Tian in the holy light barrier without blinking. Father, this is... Ruo Xian whispered. Wu Yi's eyes moved as he looked at Lin Tian from afar. Feng Tianzuan and Ao Tianzuan looked at Xianming and clenched their fists. Bastard! Ao Tianzuan gritted his teeth. A teacher for a day, a father for life. It's only right for his teacher to kill an enemy for him. This isn't the reason why you can live today. He knew that their little junior brother had an irreconcilable enmity with the celestial court. However, he didn't know who he had enmity with. Now that he knew that Xian Ming was one of them, his eyes couldn't help but fill with murderous intent. Hearing Ao Jiantianzuan's words, Xian Ming couldn't help but tremble. He was afraid that an old drunkard would kill him after hearing this. No! You can't think like that. There is a difference between a teacher and a parent. You can't kill me. Chapter 2273. Xian Ming trembled and looked at an old drunkard in shock and fear. Beside him, the faces of the dozens of 72 winged elites were pale. There was no trace of blood on their faces. White Tiger, Little Taichu, and Ruoxian looked at this scene. At this moment their eyes were still filled with disbelief about an old drunkard's true identity, and Lin Tian's true identity. At the same time, they were also shocked. How terrifying was Xian Ming! Even someone as strong as Wu Yi was no match for him. Xian Ming's aura alone could not block him. However, now, facing an old drunkard, this terrifying Xian Ming could not even move. There was only fear on his face. White Tiger opened his mouth but could not say a word. At this time, it finally understood the true meaning behind Emperor Divine Seal's words. No matter how hard an ant tries, it will never be able to shake an eagle. You can't kill me! You can't kill me! The panicked voice was heard again. Xian Ming trembled and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The fear in his eyes was even more intense. An old drunkard was calm and indifferent. He looked at Xian Ming and the dozens of 72 winged elites and said, You are too presumptuous. Xian Ming trembled and the luster of life in his eyes disappeared. His body disintegrated like sand and disappeared completely in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the dozens of 72 winged elites also disintegrated one after another and turned into sand. White Tiger, Little Taichu, and Ruoxian were all shocked. White Tiger could not help but have goosebumps all over his body. He opened his mouth but still could not say a word. He was completely shocked by this scene. It was only a sentence. He did not see an old drunkard make a move at all. However, that terrifying Xian Ming and dozens of 72 winged elites disintegrated in an instant. Their bodies and souls were all destroyed. What kind of power was this? Even the old gangster and old Taoist who knew how terrifying a human king was could not help but tremble. I have always wondered. Is he really human? Old Taoist whispered. Dust drifted in the fantasy flame star ocean. Old drunkard lifted his head to look into the distance. A beam of light sparkled in his eyes. Outside the black-yellow universe, there was a magnificent big world with magnificent mountains and rivers. At this moment, the space around it was distorted. Even time jumped with it. Then, the big world disappeared instantly. Almost at the same time, the divine key shook violently in the black-yellow universe. She was from the Heaven Protector clan. She knew where her clan's land was, and she could feel the aura of her clan's land. At that moment, she could clearly sense that wherever the old drunkard's gaze passed, their clan's land, a world that was countless times larger than the ultimate great world, instantly crumbled. This made her tremble uncontrollably. Even though she knew that a human king was terrifying, she was still shaken by this. Despite being separated by a boundless great universe, as far as his eyes could see, he had instantly destroyed the world where her clan was established. She couldn't even imagine such strength. She couldn't even understand how such a thing could be done. An old drunkard stood in the sky above the black-yellow universe. His eyes became calm again as he looked at Lin Tian in the holy brilliance. Lin Tian was unconscious in the holy brilliance. However, his body trembled from time to time. The hand that was holding the rainbow divine sword was sometimes relaxed and sometimes clenched. It was as if he was having a nightmare. Back then, you sealed his origin memories after extracting them from him. Can he still remember the past based on his instincts? A soft voice sounded. A woman appeared beside an old drunkard. She looked at Lin Tian in the holy brilliance and felt a little heartache. The woman wore a green dress. Her essence, energy, and spirit were extremely astonishing, as if she was a part of the heavens. Saintess of all heavens! The Yuan Emperor and martial ancestor felt a familiar aura and spoke at the same time. At the same time, Fengxing Tianzuan and Ao Jian Tianzuan were excited. Master's wife! Xian Ming's suppression had already disappeared. The two of them flashed over. Although her appearance was different, her aura was exactly the same as their master's wife. Little one, little six, you are stronger than before. You have surpassed yourselves, the woman said gently. White Tiger, little Taichu, and Ruoxian looked at this scene and were in a daze. Master's wife Qin Xian is a saintess of all heavens? White Tiger was stunned. On this day, he had seen too many shocking things. His mind was in a mess. An old drunkard brought Lin Tian, Qin Xian, Fengxing Tianzuan, and Ao Jian Tianzuan to land on a piece of land. Master, little junior brother! Fengxing Tianzuan looked at Lin Tian, who was unconscious. Seeing Lin Tian trembling from time to time as if he was in pain, he couldn't help but show a distressed expression like Qin Xian. He and Ao Jian Tianzuan had never bowed to an old drunkard. The human king's bloodline never cared about superficial etiquette. It's okay. An old drunkard shook his head. Looking at Lin Tian, who was bathed in the holy light, his peaceful eyes seemed very gentle, but he also sighed. In the distance, Wu put away thousand snow and walked over. Soon, she came close and her gaze fell on Lin Tian. An old drunkard paused. The holy light outside Lin Tian's body dissipated, and he was sent to Wu Yi's side by a gentle force. Wu Yi stretched out her hand and hugged Lin Tian. Looking at Lin Tian, who was trembling from time to time, there was a trace of worry in her gentle eyes. She could feel that Lin Tian was in great pain now. Even if he was unconscious, it was as if he was being tortured by a nightmare. Daddy! Ruoxian and the White Tiger, little Taichu, flashed over at this time. Looking at Lin Tian, their eyes were full of worry. Thinking of Lin Tian's demonic state before, and looking at Lin Tian who was trembling in a coma at this time, they didn't feel good. Almost at the same time, as Lin Tian trembled from time to time, in the 9th heaven of the 10 directions heavens, in a very ordinary large pit, billowing black light rushed out, exuding a terrifying aura that annihilated every inch of the void. In the ordinary pit, there seemed to be a peerless demon king that could destroy the world. That aura was extremely terrifying. An old drunkard stood in the illusory flame-starry sky, looking at the 10 directions heavens from afar. Your consciousness doesn't need to exist anymore. As he muttered to himself, a faint light flashed in his eyes. In the 9th heaven of the 10 directions heavens, the billowing black light overflowing from the barren mountain pit suddenly shook violently. Human king, you are so ruthless. A voice filled with panic, despair, and anger came from the billowing black light, then disappeared in an instant. The billowing black light rushed out and disappeared into the pit again. In the illusory flame-starry sky, Fengxing Tianzuan and Ao Jian Tianzuan looked at an old drunkard and asked, Master, what did you say just now? Nothing, don't worry about it. An old drunkard said. Fengxing Tianzuan and Ao Jian Tianzuan were a little suspicious, but they didn't ask much. Their eyes fell on Lin Tian again. Junior brother. Seeing that Lin Tian was still trembling in a coma, their faces didn't look very good. It was also at this time that the old gangster, martial ancestor, old Taoist, and others flashed over one after another. Chapter 2274. Lin Tian had cultivated all the techniques of Fengxing Tianzuan and the others. Like Fengxing Tianzuan and the others, the old gangster had once suspected that Lin Tian was the junior brother of the 9 people, the disciple of the human king. However, because he couldn't feel any familiar aura, he had previously denied this idea. However, he didn't expect that his guess back then was actually correct. His current cultivation is far beyond what it used to be. Why can't I feel the slightest bit of origin aura from before? The primitive emperor asked an old drunkard, as if he knew Lin Tian in the past. In order to become a reincarnated body, the origin aura has changed. an old drunkard said, not saying much on this point. He looked at the primitive emperor, then at the old gangster, martial ancestor, and the old Taoist. Thank you for your trouble. We didn't help much. If you really want to say something, old Tai Yi's eternal yen heaven advancing pellet was effective. Martial ancestor shook his head. He naturally knew that an old drunkard was thanking them for rushing here to help Lin Tian. Thank you? An old drunkard smiled at the old Taoist. Don't! If you didn't help back then, this old man would have been dead. You are thanking me now, isn't it too much? The old Taoist waved his hand, looked at Lin Tian, and said to an old drunkard. By the way, that eternal yen heaven advancing pellet will be very bad after its effect wears off. You should help him when appropriate. Otherwise, he will suffer a fate worse than death within a month. The side effects of the eternal yen heaven advancing pellet were very severe and difficult to resolve. Even a supreme master of the universe like him couldn't do it. However, he believed that an old drunkard could resolve it, because an old drunkard was a human king. In his impression, there was nothing that a human king couldn't do. It has been erased, an old drunkard said. He looked at Lin Tian with a gentle gaze. Previously, when he had enveloped Lin Tian with his divine splendor, he had completely erased the medicinal effects and side effects of the everlasting yen advancing heaven pill. Lin Tian was being supported by Wu Yi and was completely leaning on Wu Yi. At this time, she was in a coma and was trembling from time to time. Grand Master, my father, he... Ruoxian looked at an old drunkard with worry and tears in her eyes. At this time, seeing her father who had doted on her since she was young like this, she felt very uncomfortable. This kind of discomfort made her no longer feel surprised that an old drunkard is the legendary human king. At this time, her heart was only tied to her father. I'm fine, an old drunkard said with a smile. He looked at Ruoxian with a kind and gentle gaze. Qin Xian stroked Ruoxian's hair. Her eyes were filled with love. She said gently, Don't worry, it's fine. Lin Tian was their most beloved disciple. Ruoxian was Lin Tian's daughter. Naturally, they also doted on Ruoxian. As the saying goes, love a house, love its crow. Ruoxian relaxed a little. She held the unconscious Lin Tian's hand and looked at Lin Tian without blinking. Yeah. Little Taichu looked at Lin Tian, its furry ears drooping slightly. When it was still in the egg, it was Lin Tianyi who took care of it until it was born. After that, he gave it a name. After that, they were always together. Lin Tian was the most important person in the world to it. It was even more important than the Emperor of Fairy Spirit, and its mother whom it had never met. Now that it saw Lin Tian like this, it was naturally very sad. White Tiger, Shinqi, martial ancestor, and the man in green all looked at Lin Tian at this time. This place was very quiet for a moment. In the blink of an eye, dozens of breaths had passed. An old drunkard looked at everyone here and said, No one is to mention what happened today to him. Why? The old gangster was curious. He naturally knew that an old drunkard was referring to his real identity, Qin Xian's identity, and Lin Tian's identity. At the same time, White Tiger and the others were also very confused. Right now, he doesn't have the willpower to suppress his hatred. If we tell him about us, it might stimulate him and make him instinctively recall the hatred of the past. That would be very bad. Just now, all of you saw it too. Just by seeing an enemy of the past, it caused him to enter a demonic state and almost lose himself. Moreover, this was under the condition that his origin memories were extracted and sealed by us. Qin Xian looked at Lin Tian with pity and then said, His hatred is so deep that even if his original memory was extracted, his instinct is still branded with hatred. Once he is stimulated, it will explode. Right now, not only does he not have the willpower to suppress his hatred, but he also doesn't have the strength to take revenge. So now, don't mention our identity and his identity to him. She continued. After this, when he has enough willpower to suppress his hatred, the original memory that we sealed will automatically return to his body and let him remember everything that happened in the past. I understand. The hatred of the past, that kind of hatred is indeed. The old gangster sighed and looked at the unconscious Lin Tian. These years, this little guy has really suffered. Obviously, he knew about Lin Tian's past. Grand Preceptor's wife, Father, what did Father experience in the past? What did the Celestial Court do to Father? Ruoxian clenched her hands and asked Qin Xian. She had already guessed, clearly guessed, that her father's hatred was related to the Celestial Court. White Tiger, Little Taichu, and the man in green couldn't help but look at Qin Xian at this time. What kind of deep-rooted hatred could cause Lin Tian to be in so much pain? Even if his original memory was extracted and sealed, he could still react to his former enemy and go crazy just by instinct. Even Wu Yi couldn't help but look at Qin Xian. Xinqi also guessed that Lin Tian's hatred was related to the Celestial Court. At this time, he couldn't help but tremble and his face became very pale. For a moment, he didn't dare to look at Lin Tian. This was because she was once the strongest person in the Heavenly Protector clan and a member of the Celestial Court. She was afraid that she would be related to Lin Tian's hatred. She was afraid that before she left the Heavenly Protector clan, she had hurt Lin Tian. If that was really the case, she really didn't know what to do. Grand Preceptor's wife will tell you when your father obtains his original memory. Or after that, your father will tell you himself. It's not good to tell you that now, Qin Xian said to Ruoxian. After a pause, she looked at Xinqi and said, Don't worry. What happened back then has nothing to do with you. She was the wife of the human king, and was once the saintess of the all heavens. Her abilities were far beyond what ordinary people could guess. She naturally knew that Xinqi was once the strongest person in the Heavenly Protector clan and was Wu Yi's mother. Thus, when she saw Xinqi's reaction at this time, she naturally knew what Xinqi was worried and afraid of. Hearing this, Xinqi immediately relaxed. It was as if a huge rock had been removed from her shoulders. It was more like she had just escaped death. She didn't care at all that Qin Xian could guess what she was thinking at this time. Thank you. Thank you. She thanked Qin Xian. Lin Tian's hatred had nothing to do with her. She had never done anything to harm Lin Tian. When she found out about this, she instantly felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted off her shoulders, and she was countless times happier than if she had been saved today. Time slowly passed. For a moment, this place became very quiet. Lin Tian was still unconscious. He unconsciously leaned on Wu Yi. Wu Yi supported him. She didn't say anything, but her eyes were very gentle. In a flash, dozens of breaths passed. It's time to go. An old drunkard looked at Lin Tian and spoke at this time. P.S. Yesterday, everyone wanted to see the follow-up of an old drunkard's appearance. So, after the dragon updated 2 chapters, he added 2 more chapters. Then, the order of these 2 chapters was accidentally wrong. This order was fixed immediately on the internet. However, there were some places that couldn't be fixed. Combined with the previous chapters, the dragon will tell you the correct reading order. Everyone read in the order of Snatching the Emperor's Furnace. Xianming Crazy the Drunkard is here. You are too presumptuous. Deep-seated hatred. Ha, this is the correct reading order. Please forgive me for any inconvenience I may have caused. Chapter 2275. Grandmaster, are you and Grand Preceptor's wife leaving? Ruoxian held the hand of the unconscious Lin Tian. Hearing that an old drunkard was leaving, she couldn't help but ask. An old drunkard nodded. Don't worry about your father. He's just in a coma for the time being. He'll wake up in half a month at most. Be good. We'll meet again soon, Qin Xian said to Ruoxian. Then she looked at Feng Xin Tianzuan and Ao Jian Tianzuan. Xiao Yi, Xiao Lu, come with us. Feng Xin Tianzuan and Ao Jian Tianzuan hesitated. They looked at the unconscious Lin Tian. Grand Preceptor's wife, we want to. Qin Xian naturally knew that the two wanted to stay with Lin Tian for the time being. In the past, they had always doted on Lin Tian, their junior brother. Now that you know he's Xiao Yi, you'll inevitably care about him deliberately in the future. After that, we'll meet again when he retrieves the original memory," she said. Feng Xingtianzuan and Ao Jiantianzuan paused. They knew Qing Xian's painstaking efforts. Finally, they looked at Lin Tian and nodded. "Got it, Grand Preceptor's wife," the two said, and stood behind Qing Xian and an old drunkard. An old drunkard and Qing Xian stood together and looked at Lin Tian gently. After this farewell, the disciple they doted on the most would truly recognize them after reincarnating. "Grand Master, Grand Preceptor's wife, goodbye." Ruo Xian knew that the old drunkard and Qing Xian were about to leave. Although she was worried about her father, she still waved her hand to bid them farewell. She appeared very obedient and polite. Qing Xian smiled gently at her, and then looked at Wu Yi. "Wu Yi, please take care of our Xiaoyi." "Okay." Wu Yi supported Lin Tian and nodded gently. Qing Xian smiled. She looked at Lin Tian and then at Wu Yi. "Having you is the greatest blessing of the 10th reincarnation. Because of you, because of all of you, in this life, even if we don't interfere, he will succeed." An old drunkard didn't say anything. He just looked at Lin Tian gently. After a short pause, he disappeared silently with Qin Xian, Feng Xingtianzuan, and Ao Jiantianzuan. For a moment, the place became much quieter. The old hooligan looked at Lin Tian with a sigh in his eyes. He paused for a moment before saying, "It's fine now. It's safe now. Then this old man will leave too." "All right, I'm leaving too," the old Taoist priest said. Together. The martial ancestor was a man of few words. The primitive emperor didn't say anything and planned to leave. The four supreme masters of the universe stood together and looked at Lin Tian deeply. In the end, they also disappeared silently. The place suddenly became even quieter. Only Wu Yi, Ruoxian, Little Taichu, White Tiger, Shinqi, the man in cyan, and Lin Tian, who was unconscious and leaning on Wu Yi, were left. Wisps of light wind drifted here. Wu Yi supported the unconscious Lin Tian. She didn't say anything. She looked very quiet, and her eyes were very gentle. However, there was a hint of worry in her eyes that she didn't usually have. "Mother, let's go somewhere else," Ruoxian said softly. In the illusory flame-starry sea, broken stars were floating. At this time, the air was still filled with the remnants of the destructive aura from the previous battle. It wasn't a good land. Wu Yi nodded and took Lin Tian to the illusory flame-starry sea. Ruoxian, White Tiger, and Little Taichu followed behind her. Shinqi and the man in cyan paused for a moment, and then followed them. Not long after, they found an ordinary big world. There weren't many people inside, but the environment was good. The mountains and rivers were beautiful, and the spirit energy wasn't dense, but it wasn't thin either. After entering this great world, the group arrived at an immortal valley. They stopped at a relatively spacious and flat location inside the valley. There were many flowers, grass, and ancient trees in the surroundings. Wu Yi leaned against a big tree and sat on his knees, letting Lin Tian rest his head on his thighs. This way, the unconscious Lin Tian would feel more comfortable. She was very quiet and didn't say anything. She just lowered her head and looked at Lin Tian quietly, waiting for Lin Tian to wake up. Ruoxian, White Tiger, and Little Taichu stayed on one side. They were also very quiet. Shinqi and the man in cyan followed them. They stood a little farther away, sometimes looking at Lin Tian and sometimes at Wu Yi. Ruoxian naturally noticed their actions. She also knew the relationship between them and her family. She opened her mouth, wanting to say something to them, wanting to say something to her mother, but in the end, she didn't open her mouth. Next to her, White Tiger and Little Taichu also did the same. Wu Yi was very quiet. She looked at Lin Tian quietly, and completely ignored everything around her. She only focused on Lin Tian. Time passed little by little. Lin Tian was in a coma. Her body trembled from time to time, as if she was constantly being tortured by nightmares. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Half a month later, on this day, he finally woke up. His eyelids twitched, and he opened his eyes in the next moment. What entered his eyes was a familiar face, an extremely beautiful face. "Wu Yi," he said softly. "N," Wu Yi answered. She still looked at him with her head lowered, her eyes gentle. "Daddy! Brat, you're finally awake! You're finally awake! Ya!" Ruoxian, White Tiger, and little Taichu hurriedly surrounded him. They suddenly became much more relaxed. Shinki and the man in cyan also quickly walked over, a trace of joy on their faces. They were slightly closer than before, but they didn't really come close. They stopped about 3 zhang away from Wu Yi and Lin Tian. Lin Tian felt a slight headache. Then, he realized that he was currently lying on Wu Yi's lap. "What happened to me?" "This place." He sat up and looked around. He was somewhat puzzled. "Why are we here?" "Those elders of the Heaven Protector clan, the battle over there." At this time, he felt dizzy. He only remembered that a very terrifying person suddenly appeared in the battle in the illusory flame astral ocean. He couldn't remember what happened after that. "The battle over there is already over," Wu Yi said softly. "Your master came and wiped out everyone." "The old guy was here?" Lin Tian was surprised. "In." Wu Yi nodded. "Really? Why don't I have any impression of him?" Lin Tian frowned and said, "Why did I faint?" He was not surprised that an old drunkard could wipe out all the enemies in the illusory flame astral ocean. His master was called a peerless genius, so he definitely had that ability. He was just puzzled. Why didn't he have any impression of an old drunkard appearing? How did he faint in the end? The effect of the Eternal Inferno Heaven Advancement pill was over. The side effect made you faint. Your master appeared after you fainted, Wu Yi said softly. She didn't like to lie. It was not in line with her character, but she knew that lying now was good for Lin Tian. She looked at Lin Tian calmly and gently. Chapter 2276. Very strong, Wu Yi said softly. I don't think anyone in this world can compare to him. Lin Tian was moved when he heard this. He remembered the strength Wu Yi had displayed before. Even the strongest ancestor of the Heaven Protector clan was killed by Wu Yi in an instant. And now, the powerful Wu Yi actually gave his master such a high evaluation. That old guy is already so strong? No one in this world can compare to him? He paused and said, Isn't this a bit exaggerated? At least, the legendary human king shouldn't be weaker than that old guy, right? Wu Yi's lips moved. He paused and said, Among the people I've seen, no one can compare to your master. At the side, Ruoxian, White Tiger, and little Taichu looked at him. They opened their mouths, but didn't say anything in the end. What's with your expressions? What do you mean? Lin Tian looked at Ruoxian and the others. At this time, he felt that they were looking at him with strange expressions. Nothing, Daddy, Ruoxian said. Yes, nothing. Yeah. White Tiger and little Taichu also spoke one after another. There were some things that couldn't be let Lin Tian know. Is that so? Lin Tian looked at them. Why do I feel like you're hiding something from me? No, Daddy, you're thinking too much. Why would we hide anything from you? Absolutely not. Ruoxian pulled Lin Tian's hand and shook it. Daddy, don't you believe in your daughter? Your daughter is the most obedient. Seeing his precious daughter acting like a spoiled child, Lin Tian didn't think about anything else. He smiled and rubbed Ruoxian's head. I believe you. Hee, Daddy is the best. Ruoxian threw herself on Lin Tian and hugged Lin Tian's neck. She rubbed against him and continued to act like a spoiled child. You're already so old, yet you're still so coquettish. However, the smile on Lin Tiandao's face became even wider. No matter how much time has passed, in front of father and mother, a daughter is still a child who hasn't grown up, a baby, Ruoxian said. Lin Tianwei stared blankly for a moment before she couldn't help but smile. That's right. He looked at Wu Yi, then looked at Ruoxian who was hugging him and acting spoiled. He smiled and said, In my and your mother's hearts, we actually think the same. No matter how much their children had grown, they were still children in the eyes of their parents. They would always be children. About 10 feet away, Shinki and the green-clothed man stood together. When they saw that Lin Tian had woken up, they relaxed. When they heard Lin Tian's words, their gazes couldn't help but waver. They looked at Wu Yi, who was standing beside the ancient tree. Lin Tian was standing beside Wu Yi, so he naturally felt their gazes. He raised his head and saw that the two of them were still looking at Wu Yi, just like before. Their eyes were filled with obvious excitement, but their gazes were still somewhat evasive. Therefore, when he saw their actions and the distance between them and Wu Yi, he knew that they hadn't acknowledged Wu Yi yet. He stood up and pulled Wu Yi up. He looked at Shinki and the green-clothed man. He paused for a moment before he said to Wu Yi, "Wu Yi, this is your mother and father." In fact, he knew that Wu Yi already knew about this matter. Previously, the 72 winged powerhouses of the Heaven Protector clan had already revealed it to him. However, both sides had yet to acknowledge each other. At this time, he naturally had to speak up to break the deadlock. Back then, he continued to speak and briefly explained why Shinki had sent Wu Yi away back then. At the same time, he also gave a brief account of the green-clothed man. Wu Yi looked at Shinki and the green-clothed man. Although she already knew that the two of them were her biological parents, when she heard Lin Tian say it personally, her gaze couldn't help but waver. Shinki and the green-clothed man looked at Wu Yi. At this time, they were trembling slightly. They wanted to say something to Wu Yi, but they didn't know how to start. Looking at their daughter in front of them, their hearts were filled with guilt. This was especially true for Shinki. Other than the guilt of not fulfilling the responsibility of raising Wu Yi, she also felt that she wasn't qualified to be Wu Yi's mother because her hands were stained with blood back then. The White Tiger and little Taichu watched quietly from the side. Either of them spoke. This place was very quiet for a moment. The sound of a gentle breeze could be heard clearly. "Grandmother! Grandfather!" Ruoxian let go of Lin Tian and suddenly jumped beside Shinki and the green-clothed man. She pulled on Shinki's hand and called out sweetly. She seemed exceptionally obedient. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly. Then, he secretly gave Ruoxian a thumbs up. This precious daughter of his really knew how to adjust the atmosphere. He believed that with Ruoxian's actions and Ruoxian's words, the silent and stiff atmosphere here would definitely improve. In reality, his predictions were not wrong. As Ruoxian jumped to Shinki and the green-clothed man's side, and as Ruoxian called out grandmother and grandfather, the silent and stiff atmosphere here began to improve in the blink of an eye. Shinki pulled on Ruoxian. He was both excited and happy. The green-clothed man was also the same. The atmosphere here was getting better and better. Ruoxian pulled on Shinki and the green-clothed man and arrived in front of Wu Yi. Wu Yi just looked at Shinki and the green-clothed man quietly on the battlefield. Although there were some fluctuations in her eyes, she did not say anything. She was not good at communicating. In this kind of situation, although she had some expectations in her heart, she did not know how to open her mouth or how to respond. Wu Yi. In the end, it was Shinki who gathered the courage to step forward and speak. He gathered the courage to pull on Wu Yi's hand. Wu Yi still did not move. Her expression did not even change much. She just said, "Yes." Her voice was very soft. It was so soft that it was almost inaudible. However, Shinki's cultivation was very strong. At this moment, all of his attention was focused on Wu Yi. Naturally, he heard it. His entire body trembled. This was a kind of recognition, right? Tears gushed out of her eyes like a flood breaking through a dam. "I'm sorry! I'm sorry! I'm sorry!" At this moment, this once strongest warrior of the Heaven Protectors burst into tears. He kept apologizing to Wu Yi. The green-clothed man did not say anything. However, there were also tears in his eyes. Lin Tian stood to the side. When he saw this, he couldn't help but smile. In this world, apart from scum like the Fey race's patriarch, which parent didn't want to be by their child's side from the moment they were born? Which parent didn't want to raise their child in the palm of their hands? If there was no special reason, which parent would be willing to send their newborn away from their side? Looking at Shinki and the green-clothed man, he could understand their feelings. This was especially true for Shinki. When they were being hunted down, in order to prevent the newborn Wu Yi from being harmed, he personally sent the newborn Wu Yi away from his side. How painful was it to personally watch one's own flesh and blood leave? Now the two of them were reunited with Wu Yi. He was happy for them. At the same time, he was also happy for Wu Yi. Wu Yi had always been so quiet. She never mentioned her parents. Even at this time, her expression did not change much. However, he knew that Wu Yi was definitely very happy in her heart. He looked at them and paused. He couldn't help but think of himself. All these years, he was like Wu Yi. He had never thought about his parents. However, at this time, seeing Wu Yi reunite with his birth parents, he couldn't help but think about this. He was picked up by someone and grew up in an orphanage. Where were his birth parents? Perhaps they have already turned to dust. He thought to himself. After all, he grew up on Earth. Almost everyone there was an ordinary person. His parents were also ordinary people. Chapter 2277. Daddy, what's wrong? Ruoxian noticed that Lin Tian's expression was a bit strange and couldn't help but ask. Lin Tian came back to his senses. Nothing, I'm just happy that your mother and grandfather are reunited. Is that so? Why do I feel like you're thinking about something else? Ruoxian asked strangely. Her divine senses were very sharp. Of course, I'm just happy for your mother, Lin Tian said with a smile, pinching her nose. On this day, Wu Yi and her parents were reunited. Shinki pulled Wu Yi and kept apologizing. Then, he pulled Wu Yi and said many other things. The man in green was also at the side. Compared to Shinki, he didn't talk much, but he also spoke from time to time. Wu Yi was basically listening to Shinki and the man in green talk. She listened very quietly and looked at Lin Tian from time to time. Although mother is very strong and perfect, she's just a little wife in front of father. After reuniting with grandfather and grandmother, she's always looking at father and hanging on father's side. Ruoxian giggled and teased her mother. Lin Tian blushed with shame. His daughter was really naughty. However, he knew in his heart that Ruoxian was doing it on purpose. She just wanted to make the atmosphere of this place warmer. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, a full 7 days had passed. It's about time. Let's go and leave this place. On this day, Lin Tian now. During these 7 days, the atmosphere between Wu Yi and her parents was much better. Wu Yi didn't change much. Facing her parents, she was still very calm. However, Shinki and the man in green had changed a lot. After reuniting with each other, after 7 days, at least they didn't have the feeling of being afraid to face Wu Yi because of guilt, like before. At the same time, during these 7 days, he also learned the name of the man in green. He was called Mu Shishu. It sounded very similar to his former identity as a scholar. Just by hearing the name, he could feel that he was a scholar. Moreover, he realized that his current cultivation had improved significantly compared to before. He was much stronger now. He reckoned that with his current strength, without relying on any artifacts or the reincarnation soul-tempering art, he could kill a 48-winged heaven protector expert. This caused him to sigh with emotion once again. Sure enough, a cultivator still had to improve through battle. Fierce battles were really helpful in increasing one's strength. Their cultivation bases were very high, so they traveled very quickly. Soon, they stepped out of the great world. Human? Cut it off! In the distance, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. A group of Saint King-level heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals passed by and happened to see Lin Tian and the others. They immediately strode over, their eyes cold and indifferent. Someone attacked, and a large amount of murderous light pressed down on the group. A descendant of the immortal spirit royal family? Capture it, but don't kill it. Suppress it and hand it over. You will be rewarded greatly. These people's cultivation bases were not high, so they did not know that Lin Tian was a reincarnated being. Shinqi's 72 wings were hidden, so they could not tell that Shinqi was a member of the Heaven Protector clan. At this time, they could only see that the little Taichu had the bloodline of the immortal spirit imperial family. Looking at the little Taichu, their eyes gleamed as if they had seen a delicious prey. "You're really courting death." The white tiger curled his lips. A mere group of Saint Kings actually dared to make a move against them like this. Lin Tian did not say anything. An invisible aura spread out and directly crushed the group of heavenly soldiers into nothingness. "I just thought of a problem." Looking at these heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals, his eyes flickered. "The destruction of the black-yellow universe is difficult to stop. Senior Fengshen told me before that when about 70% of the universe is destroyed, the heaven and earth will change. At that time, comprehending order will be countless times easier than usual. It will be the best time to comprehend and control order," he said. "This black-yellow universe has not been destroyed to 70%. Let's go back to the Hongming universe now and bring Jiyu and the rest of our old friends here. At that time, we can comprehend order. Moreover, we can continue to rob the celestial court of the pristine jade bottle used to collect life essence. It is also very useful." The celestial court's strength was extremely terrifying. After the black-yellow universe was destroyed, the Hongming universe would be the next. Before that, he had to seize every opportunity to strengthen the people around him. The white tiger's eyes lit up. "That's right. That's a very good idea." Lin Tian nodded. Immediately he took action himself, directly tearing open an enormous spatial crack in this place. This was the universe portal. Now that his cultivation had reached a level where he could kill the 48-winged heavenly protector, it was naturally not difficult to tear open the universe portal. "Let's go," he said. The group stepped into the universe portal and disappeared in an instant. It was pitch black inside the universe portal. Lin Tianyi and the rest entered the universe portal. After an unknown period of time, there was light in front of them. A strong force emerged and shook the group out of the universe portal. Looking around, there were stars circling around them. They were in the starry sky, and the silver starlight was exceptionally gentle. "The Hongmeng universe is back," Lin Tian muttered to himself. With his current cultivation base, it was impossible for him to be wrong about the destination of the transmission. He knew that he was now in the Hongmeng universe. Moreover, the starry skies of the Xianhuan universe were almost completely destroyed. It was impossible for the starry skies here to remain intact. "Let's go to the 10 Directions Ancient Star first and pick up Jiyu and the others. Then, we'll find Yer and use the Heavenly Mystery Divine technique to find the White Pig and the others," he said. Sacred light surged, and he was about to bring Wu Yi and the others to the 10 Directions Heavenly Domain, but he was stopped by Ruoxian. "Father, don't be in such a hurry," Ruoxian said. "When my mother and I were forcibly taken to Black-Yellow Universe, we were in that special tomb in the immortal domain with the ladies, Anciar, and Ants. They might still be there now." "Is that so?" Lin Tian looked at Wu Yi. "Yes," Wu Yi said softly. Lin Tian nodded. "All right, let's go to the ancient tomb in the celestial domain." With his current cultivation, it was naturally very easy to find the celestial domain and enter it. In a flash, he led Ruoxian and the others into the celestial domain, and then came to the ancient tomb. They went straight in and soon traveled far into the tomb. A small region of space-time suddenly appeared in front of them. The flow of time inside was obviously very different from the outside world. It felt like one day outside was 1 year inside. He saw Jiyu, Sushu, Shuiyi, Baiqiu, the Violet Fairy Yan Yer, and the others at a glance. At the same time, Jiyu and the others naturally saw him and Wu Yi, and they were immediately overjoyed. "Lin Tian, Sister Wu Yi, Xianer." The group stepped out of the region of space-time and immediately came to Lin Tian and the others. "Sister Wu Yi, are you and Xianer okay?" Sushu asked. The divine phoenix Dao fruit had completely merged with her body. After so many years, she was now at the early stage of the heavenly arrival realm. Shui Yi and the others also came forward and asked Wu Yi and Ruoxian. They were all aware of Wu Yi's current strength, and they weren't too worried when Wu Yi and Ruoxian were forcibly taken away. But now that they saw Wu Yi and Ruoxian, they couldn't help but ask. For a moment, Lin Tian was left out in the cold by them. I'm fine. Wu Yi smiled softly. Yes, if you're fine, Su Shu said. But then, she suddenly stopped talking. She saw the divine key in Lin Tian's group, and her eyes instantly widened. This is... At the same time, the Violet Fairy and the others also saw the divine key, and their expressions changed. They actually saw someone who looked exactly like Wu Yi. Moreover, even their auras were so similar. Her mother, and the one next to her is her father, Lin Tian explained for the Violet Fairy and the others. He briefly introduced the divine key and the man in green, Mu Xingshu, and also briefly explained why Wu Yi had landed in the 10 Directions Sky domain. I see. Hello, Uncle and Auntie. After Ji Yu and the others understood, they all bowed to the divine key and Mu Xingshu. The divine key and Mu Xingshu were very powerful, but they were very polite to Ji Yu and the others. The group exchanged a few simple words, and Lin Tian said, Let's leave here first. There are other. Which bastard is robbing my grave? Chapter 2278. Lin Tian's expression changed. The voice that came from the depths of the ancient tomb was too familiar. Almost at the moment he had this feeling, an old man in a grey robe rushed out of the depths of the ancient tomb and came close in the blink of an eye. He stared at Lin Tian and the others and shouted, You guys! Just as he spat out 4 words, the old man in the grey robe stopped. He stared at Lin Tian and the others and said, It's you guys! At the same time, Lin Tian was also shocked. The White Tiger, Little Taichu, and Ruoxian also stared at him. Even Wu Yi's eyes moved slightly. How did you? Lin Tian looked at the person in front of him. Wasn't this person the old hooligan? The tomb here belonged to the old hooligan? Wasn't this old guy alive and well? The old hooligan pointed at Lin Tian and glared at him. He was trembling with anger. I just jumped over to help you fight the enemy a moment ago. Although I didn't do anything, I still went over to help you, didn't I? You brat, you're really something. You immediately formed a team to dig up my tomb. You can't play like this. He was in the black-yellow universe. A few days ago, he obtained an opportunity and became stronger. Suddenly, he sensed that there was an abnormality here, so he tore open the universe portal and rushed back from the black-yellow universe. But he didn't expect that the abnormality was actually Lin Tian and the others. Lin Tian was speechless. He was quite embarrassed at this time. He didn't expect that this place would be the old hooligan's tomb. The old hooligan did go to help him. As a result, the tomb they had been digging up turned out to be the old hooligan's. This made him very embarrassed now. Aren't you still alive and well? Why did you build a tomb for yourself out of nowhere? Don't you think it's bad luck? He said awkwardly. I like it, and I'm happy to do so. It's none of your business. He paused for a moment, as if he had thought of something. He looked at Lin Tian, and could not help but sigh. A special light appeared in his eyes as he said to Lin Tian, Forget it, this old man is an elder. I won't bicker with you. In this tomb, you can choose whatever you like. Just don't touch this old man's corpse in the deepest part. Lin Tian felt a little strange about the way the old gangster looked at him at this time. However, his attention was quickly attracted by the old gangster's words. Corpse? He looked at the old gangster with a strange expression and couldn't help but pinch the old gangster. You're clearly alive and have a physical body, so why do you still have a corpse? Yeah? Old man, what are you doing? Little Taichu and White Tiger also spoke up. They couldn't understand the old delinquent's words at all. They were all dumbfounded. Don't worry about it. Just don't go to the deepest part. Remember, don't go to the deepest part. I'll get angry with anyone who goes there. That's it, I'm leaving. I have other things to do, the old hoodlum said as he rushed towards the deepest part of the cave. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared. Lin Tian stared at the old gangster in a daze. He was completely stunned. The old gangster was clearly alive and well, but there was a big tomb and a corpse here. He couldn't understand it at all. This White Tiger and Little Taichu were also slightly stunned. Even Ruoxian was no exception. Even Super Universe Supreme Masters like Godly Qi and Mu Xingshu were a little surprised. Lin Tian, that man is... Jiyu tugged at Lin Tian's sleeve and asked Lin Tian now. They had been exploring this big tomb for a long time and had gained a lot of benefits. They had found 3 small spaces in the past few years. Because of this big tomb, their cultivation had improved a lot. They didn't expect to meet the tomb owner today, and it was a living tomb owner. This made them feel incredulous. Most importantly, that person and Lin Tian knew each other. An acquaintance. Lin Tian now paused and said, "Forget it. Let's not bother about him. Don't go to the deepest part." Although he was confused about the big tomb and the situation of the old gangster in this place, he didn't think too much about it at this time. He simply told Jiyu and the others about the black-yellow universe, which shocked Jiyu and the others. "Yeah, you deduced the whereabouts of White Pig and Pervert Ling. After that, I'll find them and go to the black-yellow universe together," he said to Yen Yer. "Well, okay." Yen Yer nodded and quickly put away her surprise at Lin Tian's words about the black-yellow universe. She began to deduce the whereabouts of Bai Ziki, Ling Yun, and the others with the divine divination technique. Because of the ancient tomb here, she had gained a lot. Now that her cultivation was at the level of Dominator, and she had an immortal spirit body, she was able to deduce the whereabouts of Bai Ziki, Ling Yun, and the others with the divine divination technique. "Okay," Lin Tian now said. "You go to the immortal court in the immortal realm and wait for me. Little Taichu, stupid tiger, and I will find them. After that, we will go to the black-yellow universe together." "Daddy, I'll go too," Ruoxian said. "Okay, let's go," Lin Tian said with a smile. On this day, Wu Yi took Jiyu and the others back to the immortal court in the immortal realm. Lin Tian took Ruoxian, White Tiger, and Little Taichu to find the exact whereabouts of Bai Ziki and the others according to Yen Yer's calculations. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. In 3 days, with his current powerful cultivation and the precise whereabouts of Bai Ziki and the others provided by Yen Yer, he found all his old friends, including Bai Ziki, Ling Yun, Fanning Xiong, Yang Qi, Wishing Crocodile, and Black Dragon. He also found his 2 disciples, Yi Tong and Little Fox. He also brought the seniors, Black Yellow Universe and Crocodile Ancestor, to the immortal court in the immortal realm. He also found Snow Wolf, the guardian warrior he had personally appointed. "Kid, your current cultivation base is simply. Seeing Lin Tian again after so many years, the 5 elements crocodile's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. It couldn't help but roll its eyes. "I, Lord Crocodile, have been training like hell all these years. My cultivation base has reached the sovereign level a few days ago, and I was still feeling complacent. I didn't expect you, kid, to have already stepped so far into the heavenly ascension state." Bai Ziki, Fanning Xiong, and the others also learned about Lin Tian's current cultivation. Like Wishing Crocodile, their eyes were full of shock. "You are really good," Bai Ziki said. He had the Thunder God physique and had always been known as a genius. He was also very hardworking in cultivation, but now he was only at the level of Dominator. Compared to Lin Tian, he was too far away. He still remembered when he first met Lin Tian. His cultivation was much higher than Lin Tian's. But now, the gap between Lin Tian was too big. Lin Tianyi smiled and punched Bai Ziki's chest. At the same time, he looked at Wishing Crocodile, Yang Qi, and the others. "You will catch up soon." Beside him, Black Yellow spoke, his eyes full of emotion. "In just a few years you have surpassed us. It is really..." Thinking back, when he first saw Lin Tian had not reached the Divine Emperor realm. But now, his cultivation had surpassed him. Standing beside Lin Tian, he could clearly feel how terrifying Lin Tian's essence, qi, and spirit were now. He could easily suppress him. Very heaven-defying! You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.